Welcome on board. Indeed, we start on a somber mood. My name is Linda Alela. This is a Morning Cafe, and it started from the mysterious absence of a pro-people's president, missing in action from the public eye, something that raised speculations and fear to the citizens of Tanzania across the globe. A main opposition party in Tanzania urging the government to fully explain the mystery surrounding President John Pombe Magufuli's nearly 3-week absence, saying that the public had the right to know where their leader is. A COVID-19 cynic, Magufuli last appeared in public on February the 27th, and his absence thereafter was followed with speculations that the 61-year-old was ill with the coronavirus. Fast forward, Tanzania's fear has been confirmed. The country has lost her leader, John Pombe Magufuli, born the 29th October 1959 in Geita region, Tanzania, has died at the age of 61 while receiving treatment at Nzera Hospital, Dar es Salaam, not with COVID-19 complications as speculated, but out of chronic atrial fibrillation, AFib, a heart condition he has been battling for the past about 10 years. Now, he holds a bachelor's degree in chemistry and maths, a master of science in chemistry, and a PhD in chemist, all from Dar es Salaam University. He first clinched a political seat in 1995 as a charter member of parliament, was re-elected 2 terms after, and rose to ranks to ministerial positions up to 2015, where he declared his interest for the highest office of the land and won under the ruling party CCM. In October 2020, he was re-elected for a second term until the announcement of his death on 17th of March 2021 by the Vice President of Tanzania, Her Excellency Mama Samia Suluhu Hassan. Indeed, we here at TV47 condole with the people of Tanzania, the family of President John Pombe Magufuli, the East African, that is the East African community at large, and the global fraternity for losing this incredible leader. We get into that today as we mourn this. I mean, something that probably many speculated, something that has been looked at as indeed a fall, heavy hit for that matter, for the country Tanzania. We'll be having a guest that will be joining me later as we just look at the reign of Magufuli. I mean, how this announcement was made, the role of the opposition in regards to this, the aspect of coronavirus, importantly, the transition process or the leadership process that takes over upon the demise of John Pombe Magufuli. Once again, we say, may his soul rest in eternal peace. Welcome on board. And indeed, the broadcast begins right now all the way to 9 a.m. Later on, we'll also be having Martha's Gym, but we also do not forget to look at what plays out in regards to the by-elections in Ukambani region, that is Machakos, the senatorial by-elections that are slated for today. Briefly, let's look at what the papers have in store. Definitely, they do not fail to speak about the demise of John Pombe Magufuli, as the Daily Nation would rightfully put it. Kwaheri Magufuli. John Pombe Magufuli, the Tanzanian president who has been missing in public since February the 27th, dies of heart complications in Dar es Salaam, throwing a country that has only changed presidents through elections into mourning as Vice President Samia Suluhu takes over as the first female leader of the country and the first in East Africa. We'll be looking at that, what it means, what has been declared, in the Constitution of Tanzania, and so much. So, page 2, page 3, page 4, speaking of President John Pombe Magufuli, technically of the that is the Daily Nation, as you can see right there, who rattled Tanzania dead at 61, the bulldozer, his reign, what he has done different for his people, and the fact that, towards his death, he's been criticized hugely as to how he's handled the novel coronavirus pandemic, in comparison to what others have done across the globe. But away from it, groups fight over Ruto's donations. I mean, we have seen in the past days lots of, issues coming in regards to that. some arguing that, well, while the DP went out to donate a couple of things to them, some of them have not been able to get in form of monies. Boda riders were there out to complain about this. A high school equally arguing that they were given a bus, but they've not been able to enjoy the same. But then Isuzu came out to clarify as to what really played out. In regards to the BBI, Chebukati deals blow to BBI proposal. He counters this bill, and he says that while we are having a talk of a referendum, there are so much discrepancies that have been pointed, especially on the aspect of boundaries review, that is in the aspect of adding or topping up to the list of constituencies that we have in the country from 290. An independent electoral and boundaries commission terms this act as an illegal form, and the BBI steering committee's allocation of new constituencies to counties was not proper, and they were not consulted for that matter. Country may face a constitutional crisis in delimiting the boundaries of the proposed constituencies. And so this is something that we'll be looking at as we proceed, even as the aspect of public participation was on as of yesterday in regards to just how many people would endorse this document, that is the Constitutional Amendment Bill 2020 in the BBI. And succession, as Raila's signatures was forged. Also, talks of succession row continue in the country. Lots of blows made it upon different leaders, and our biggest topic today was, or is supposed to be, the aspect of just what political formations we are likely to experience, or we are likely to see culminating right after the BBI conversation. So that is in regards to the politics of the day, as we also closely look at what plays out in Ukambani, that is in Machakos County, as they go for a by-elections, as we cross fingers also that it is going to be a peaceful process. NLC top official got cause before killing. I think we've been following up on this and the heinous death of Jennifer Wambua, and still conversations linger as to what really would have caused this, and so much so that is on the Daily Nation. Briefly, we also look at what the People Daily has, and yes, let's see. Yes, as we try and get a hold of that, a bit of a fix, but not to worry because we got you covered. As I try to get to open it, and I mean, once we get a hold of it, we'll definitely have the rest of the panelists help us to go through the same as we see what it is that this particular document or this particular paper speaks about. We want third COVID wave brutal, and indeed brutal enough, as they would say. Be careful because COVID is here. COVID is real. We've seen how many people have got this virus or have gotten this virus. We've seen how many have lost their lives because of this virus, and we can only hope that Kenyans are careful enough. BBI 70 constituencies illegal, says IEBC. I do not know whether my panelists will equally feel the same or argue the same. But then again, remember, the main conversation of the day is looking at the watch of Magufuli, but importantly also in the country, we just seek to understand what are some of the different formations that have cropped up after COVID-19, after BBI, or will crop up after BBI. Tanzania's exiled MPs speak out on Magufuli regime. Also, well, they crossed over to different countries, some into the country, as they argued that it was not a fresh or a good space as they got to this particular point. And it's quite an unfortunate that they got to this other side of the country before that declaration that indeed something played out that, was sad, and that announcement came on board also. Well, this is in regards to COVID-19, and so much so the declarations, the vaccine, what the Ministry of Health argues right now. Chebukati Falls plan to increase constituencies, and DP Ruto Kalonzo face off in Machakos County senatorial by-elections. The huge rivalry, we see who is going to carry the day. Numerous candidates, also some of them going it on independent tickets. So we'll wait to see what plays out in regards to the same and much, much more. Like I said, there'll be so much that we'll be looking at this morning, technically what it is that is playing out on the roads, importantly following up closely on these by-elections. And as we try and get a hold of our guests who are already here, actually, we have Honorable Member of Parliament, nominated Member of Parliament, Honorable Sakok is on board. Third Way Alliance Secretary General, that is Fred Okango, will be joining us, and also the Chair of Pan-African Forum, that is Dr. David Masanga, will join us via Skype as we look at the aspect of Pan-Africanism of Magufuli, and importantly his reign, not forgetting what plays out thereafter as Tanzania is set to get a female president. And indeed, it started from the mysterious absence of a pro-people president missing in action from the public eye, something that equally raised speculations and fear to the citizens of Tanzania across the globe. A main opposition party in Tanzania urging the government to fully explain the mystery surrounding President John Pombe Magufuli's nearly 3-week absence, saying that the public had the right to know the whereabouts of their leader. A COVID-19 cynic, Magufuli last appeared in public on February the 27th, and his absence thereafter was followed with speculations that the 61-year-old was ill with the coronavirus. Fast forward, Tanzania's fear has been confirmed. The country has lost her leader, John Pombe Magufuli, who was born on the 29th of October 1959 in Geita region, Tanzania. And he has died at the age of 61 while receiving treatment at Nzera Hospital, Dar es Salaam, not with COVID-19 complications as speculated, but out of chronic atrial fibrillation. That is AFib, a heart condition he has been battling for the past 10 years. He held a bachelor's degree in chemistry and maths, a master's of science in chemistry, and a PhD in chemist, all from Dar es Salaam University. He first clinched a political seat in 1995 at Chato, as a Chato Member of Parliament, was re-elected 2 terms after, and rose to ranks, to the ministerial positions up to 2015. Where he declared his interest for the highest office of the land and won under the ruling party CCM in October 2020. He was re-elected for a second term until the announcement of his death on the 17th of March 2021 on a Wednesday by the Vice President of Tanzania, Her Excellency Mama Samia Suluhu Hassan. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Honorable Sankok is here with us this morning as we get a hold of Fred Okango and equally Dr. David Nyekorach Masanga. Good to have you, Mheshimiwa.
Thank you so much.
But we start on a somber mood.
Yeah, it is really quite sober. And as the chairman, East African Council for Persons with Disability, I would like to send my heartfelt condolences on my own behalf, on behalf of my family, and on behalf of all persons with disabilities in East Africa, in which I am their chairman, to the people of the Republic of Tanzania for the loss of their president. May his soul rest in eternal peace, and may God give Tanzanians protection and strength at this very trying moment.
Indeed, and we'll delve into details of the same later on as we look at his reign. We look at how this announcement was made. We look at the political ramifications in regards to that. Indeed, as we continue to condole with Tanzania, we also look at the aspect of coronavirus and how the president dealt with this as something that got him a bit, judged harshly, being considered as an arrogant leader. But then again, in his own special way, appeared as a person who holds his faith so high. And so we'll be looking at all this, the opposition that sits right now, and how they have equally handled this, what is likely to play out. Tundu Lissu, in his own special way, has also come out to say that, well, while he could not have wished death for President John Pombe Magufuli because of the experiences that they had, the political experiences that he had down there, then equally he will not be hypocritical on how he speaks of this particular matter. I mean, we look at the transition process and the fact that now Tanzania has a female president automatically based on what has been captured on their constitution. That is Chapter 2, Part 1 and Article 37, Sub-Article 5. And it speaks of what it is that will be done upon the demise of the president. And this is what it says: where the office of the president becomes vacant by reason of death, then the president, of the death of the president, well, his resignation or loss of the electoral qualifications or inability to perform his functions due to physical infirmity or failure to discharge the duties and functions of the office of the president, then the vice president shall be sworn in and becomes president for the unexpired period of the term of 5 years, and in accordance with the condition set out in Article 40 that speaks of also a different scenario of almost the same scenario backing it up, and then after consultation with the political party to the below where this that is a vice president belongs, and technically yes, that should be the ruling party, then the president or the vice president or this particular president then will propose the name of the person who will be vice president. Such appointment shall then be confirmed by the National Assembly by votes of not less than 50% of the members of parliament. And so we'll be looking at that and what this transition means and just how best Mama Samia is positioned to handle this. And so much so, right here, like we rightfully say, we keep condoling with the people of Tanzania. Indeed, South Africa, East Africa has lost very, very powerful leader. East African integration is also a question or a matter that we look at even as we proceed with the broadcast. So much outlined for you, but also we do not forget what is happening right here at home. We look at the likelihoods of how best the senatorial by-elections in Machakos County will be held. Importantly, how this process will go through as we cross fingers that will have sanity. We also do not forget to ponder into the utterances of the IEBC in regards to the constitutional amendment bill, that is the BBI, and so much so. So make sure that you keep it right here. I think it is only fair that we quickly take a quick break, and then we'll be coming back to, of course, have our guests joining us. We look at the papers and then delve deep into the conversation of what plays out next in Tanzania. Hold it right here. As of course you've seen, we have the nominated member of parliament, Honorable David Ole Sankok, with me. We already have, that is the Secretary General for Third Way Alliance, Fred Okango, joining us there after that break because he's in studio already. And via Skype, we'll be having the chair of Pan-African Forum, Dr. David Nyekorach, equally joining us to ponder some more on all this and much more. So make sure that you keep it right here. We welcome your feedback. Hashtag Morning Cafe at Linda_Alela at TV47KE, the SMS short code 22047. We'd love to hear from you. Let's send our messages of condolences. We've seen very many leaders coming out to condole with the people of Tanzania across Africa and beyond. We've seen the people of Tanzania themselves, the celebrities coming out to, express their heartbreaking moment, or these heartbreaking moments, in special messages of how they acknowledged the leadership of John Pombe Magufuli. On numerous occasions, he's appeared in public saying that, at some point when I am called by the heavens, you will be out there, in a way, just commemorating my leadership, the way or my leadership style. We know very well that he came on board at the backdrop of, matters, making the economy of Tanzania better, actually getting into his second term. This is one thing that actually got him sailed through, because they said that indeed, looking at what has been of the economy of Tanzania, certainly so much strides or great strides have been witnessed. And also on the aspect of dealing with corruption, hands-on, most of the times you could see him going to different sectors and, directly pinpointing at individuals that have not done well in terms of dealing with the sectors, and importantly that have been named to have taken part in matters corruption, and pointing a finger at them. Some of them were actually fired on the spot. Leadership style that many looked at as a bit radical, but many celebrated, looking at the struggles that we've had as Africa in regards to dealing with matters of corruption. And so we look at all this and we see just how best can we emulate emulate one leader that has been considered as Pan-Africanist. The people who are loyal to the aspect of Pan-Africanism would probably understand one that has been looked at as a rigid leader who would equally have the confidence to go against the expectations of the superpowers without having to worry, probably emulating the likes of Robert Mugabe. Equally, may his soul rest in eternal peace. But just how instrumental was this in regards to making the best of Tanzania? Many arguing that in a way he's also crippled the gains that we've made as East Africa in trying to seek East African integration, on how he has dealt with the issues of Kenya. But then again, that we can only expound some more after this short break.
Are you a storyteller? What is that untold story in your village? Tell us the story in 3 minutes. Submit that story to your untold stories at tv47.co.ke and stand a chance to win a camera and other goodies. The top stories will be aired on TV47 and the viewer will vote for the best story through the SMS number 22047. The story must be an evergreen story that has never been told before. The deadline for submitting the stories is March 15, 2021. The link is by SMS on TV47, the home of Untold Stories. Only the wearer knows where it pinches the most. Soil fertility, proper temperature, water are just some of the factors needed to make that crop germinate. And for that animal, adequate feeds and healthy conditions is what they need. Kilimo Diaries takes you to different farmers, markets and processing companies and have you fully equipped for that agriculture venture. Kilimo Diaries, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. This month, the Throwdown treats your taste buds with a sweet ride down dessert heaven with delicious and tasty recipes that will make your sweet tooth tingle. The Throwdown, every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. Are you a storyteller? What is that untold story in your village? Tell us the story in 3 minutes. Submit that story to your untold stories at tv47.co.ke and stand a chance to win a camera and other goodies. The top stories will be aired on TV47 and the viewer will vote for the best.
right, a dark cloud indeed is here with us this morning, a somber mood, so to speak, upon the demise of Tanzania's president, that is John Pombe Magufuli. We'll be looking at, how he conducted his reign, how many received that, how many looked at this, and, the numerous things that now play out at this particular point, having, lost him, and what the people of Tanzania would definitely expect at this particular time. So welcome board once again. Quite a shocker and quite a sad moment for East Africa, the people of Tanzania, the global fraternity, having lost this incredible leader. And still with me this morning, Honorable David Ole Nsakok, who's the nominated member of parliament, and we also have Fred Okango, who is the Secretary General Third Way Alliance, and later on Skype will be joined by the chair of Pan-African Forum, that is Dr. David Nyikorach Masanga, as we look at the reign of Magufuli and so much so. But before we get into that, it is only fair that we briefly look at the papers. We also weigh in on what our expectations are in regards to the senatorial by-elections in Machakos County, but importantly, the conversation on matters BBI continues as we look at the utterances of the numerous people or sectors or bodies that went to or maybe faced the joint committee in regards to addressing the fate of the BBI at the level of the National Assembly and the Senate. So this gentleman will equally weigh in their sentiments. IEBC coming out to fault the process of incorporating more new constituencies. Chebukati argues that proposal cannot be enacted as it violates the Constitution. A proponent of the BBI or the Constitutional Amendment Bill, and that is in Fred Okango, I would want to believe that also Dr. David Nyikorach is a proponent. I do not know whether whether Ole Nsakok will still hold the very same stand that he had back then. It's a bit of a tongue twist, but then again, more or less of a dissenting voice. And so, Mheshimiwa, you'll be telling us whether you changed tone, whether you maintained the same conversation, and so much so. But as of now, we will be looking to see whether indeed our reporter Joash Onsare, who is following up on the by-elections in Machakos County, will be joining us shortly after this, just to keep us up to speed as to what plays out, whether the voting process has begun, as was expected, should have started by 6 a.m. exactly. Mheshimiwa, you still hold the same position in regards to matters BBI?
Yeah, I have a position that I had taken.
Yes.
On the issue of BBI, and the position is very clear that I do support BBI. There are so many things that were left out, and I have pointed out those issues that were left out, especially issues that, as persons with disabilities, we presented to the task force. One of them being that persons with disability should have their slots in Parliament, both in National Assembly and in the Senate and in County Assembly, but not as nominated, but as elected through an electoral college like that one that is in Uganda, so that at least those who represent persons with disability can have some level of authority in terms of not only being loyal to the political parties, but also loyal to those they represent, because these things have been done in Uganda. It was not factored in. I also propose on behalf of persons with disability that they should be provision of assistive devices through NHIF cover, so that we don't see persons with disability at this era crawling in our streets. It is pathetic to see children with disability crawling into the pit latrine, and how dirty the primary school or secondary school pit latrine can be, and then using the same soil hands to maybe eat, and that one will lower their self-esteem, and they will not compete in the same level as their colleagues. So I had proposed that at least NHIF cover can provide assistive devices, so that we have timely provision of assistive devices and kind of customized assistive devices in every village in our country. It was not factored. I also propose on behalf of pastoralists, because you saw me and Ndwale leading the pastoralist parliamentary group to the task force, in which we said then 80% of the landmass of Kenya is under the hands of pastoralists, and it have not been fully exploited in terms of potentiality. Therefore, we wanted the division, revenue division formula being 1 kilometer, 1 shilling, so that we can develop any corner of this country, so that we can offload the high population that is creating slums in our cities, that is straining our infrastructure. That one also not captured. I also propose on behalf of pastoralists that we should have the livestock marketing authority, because we do market some products like coffee and tea, but Kenya have never really marketed on livestock and livestock byproduct. We also needed minimum guaranteed returns on our livestock byproduct. You can imagine, Linda, that as we speak today, I don't know the price of a cow. I don't know the price of a liter of milk. It keep on fluctuating. I don't know the price of hide and skin. I bring my cow 100 kilometers from Olpusumoru, the border of Tanzania, to come and sell in Suswa or in Takureti market. And it depends on who will be buying. They will dictate the price. They will say, no, this cow, it will be 20,000. Yet they were not there when I was feeding the cow. They were not there when I was giving it salt. They were not there when lions almost snatched that cow from me. But they are the one dictating the prices. So we want the government at least to have minimum guaranteed returns for livestock and livestock byproduct. All these were not captured. But nonetheless, there are a few things that I say are good in BBI, a few of them. So we have always been supporting BBI.
And so they are worth sailing the document through?
You know, it is now the Kenyans to decide. It is not me.
But at least, you know, we are looking forward to see what the National Assembly, you know, does in endorsing this document. While we know that nothing much can be done after they either sail it through or they either, you know, endorse it or not. But reality is that whatever it is that the members of parliament will say will come in handy to us, giving us the confidence as to whether we should proceed to endorse it or not. You know,
Linda, I was trained by my parents not to perform duties in futility. So if I vote no, what will happen? If I vote yes, what will happen? It does not change anything. As parliament, we will not change a comma.
But at least will give us the confidence as a people. And you know that is true, because, you know, you are opinion shapers in a huge way. So if you paint a picture of this document is a good thing, then it is likely to, you know, augur well with the people down on ground, and maybe they would consider endorsing it. Anyway, we will come to Fred so we can hear what he has to say in regards to that. But first, let's cross over to the to Machakos County. That is our reporter or political affairs reporter Joash Ansari on standby to keep us up to speed in regards to the process that is the by-election that is slated to award Machakos County our senator. To you, Joash.
Thank you very much, Linda Lela. We are coming to you from Kisekin in this polling station called Salvation Army. And the residents of Machakos County have woken up to ballot to cast their ballot here at this particular polling station. To bring our viewer up to speed, this county has got more than 622,000 voters, and it has 1,335 polling stations, and several polling stations have been opened. And here I will be telling my camera person Elvis to give us a view of what is happening. We can be able to see we have people who are here to vote so that they can be able to elect their third senator. And my camera person can be able to show the exercise is on, and we've got a few people who've showed up, expected more in this particular polling station. So, Linda, we woke up very early. It's chilly here in Machakos, Kisekin, Salvation Army polling station, and the exercise is on. And for the benefit of our viewer, we have 9 candidates who are vying for this particular post. This is after the demise of Senator Boniface Kabaka, December last year. And when this exercise is going to be done, this the person who is going to be elected will be the third senator of Machakos County. The first senator was Senator Johnston Muthama, and then now the second, who is the late, is Boniface Mutinda Kabaka. And in this context, we've got nine, but two are the ones who are competitive in this. And we've seen Agnes Kavindo of Wiper. We've seen Abanas Ngengele of UDA, and we'll be able to give a highlight of the other candidates in this particular exercise. The lady there is casting her ballot, and it's a secret exercise because you choose the person that you want to elect as the leader, and it's not as any other person's exercise. So she's casting a ballot there. It's a secret ballot. And you can see the IEBC officers are busy checking the names. And now I will bring you one of the people to interview here who are going to tell us more how the exercise has been. Welcome, and tell us your name and which role are you playing in this polling station?
My name is Agnes Mumandenge. I'm an agent here. This Kisekini Salvation Army polling station. We've been here from 5:30, but we've officially started at 6. People are coming in, and we're expecting many more because it's still early. So some of them were to organize children to go to various activities, but I'm very sure all are coming. By around 10, it will be very active. People will be many here. So we are expecting people to come cast their votes and choose their leader. Thank you.
Is it the first time that you've been an agent here?
No, this is my actually third time I've been an agent here. Yeah.
And maybe what is the trend of people voting in Machakos County?
As what?
What is the trend of people voting? Do they show up fully or just a reduced number?
Our residents are very active in polling, and actually we get around 95%. Maybe 5% have reasons of not voting, but we actually very active in voting. Yeah.
Thank you very much. That is one of the agents who are in this particular polling station to ensure the exercise is on, making sure that every ballot counts in this particular polling station. That is Salvation Army polling station. My camera person can show the security is beefed up in this particular area. You can be able to see she's done with the voting, and there is a mark that is put on her finger. So the thermogans are here as well. We can be able to see the COVID-19 protocols are well observed to ensure that there is no spread of COVID-19. So the security as well, it's well beefed up to ensure that there is no any incidents of making things that flow smoothly in this particular polling station. Linda Alela will be heading to the other polling stations to give our viewer up to speed what is happening from Machakos County going forward, because we are here to ensure the exercise is on and the exercise is fair. And since now we are accredited by the IEBC to follow up this particular exercise until the tallying of the ballot. Back to you, Linda Alela, in the studio.
Well, thank you so much, Joash Onsari, for that. Evidently, there is not much activity in terms of, the voters coming to cast their vote. But as been said, the day is still young, and we wait to see then what plays out as Onsari roves around the different polling stations so that he can keep us up to speed, compiling a proper report at the end of the day. Importantly, he says security has been beefed up, and our biggest wish is that it's going to be a smooth, free, and fair process. It is interesting to note that every other time we have a by-election, or at least the times that we've had by-elections, Fred has been here. the other time we were here with you, and while we were celebrated too early, before we knew it, it was a whole different affair in terms of, sanity and all that. So before we get into that, I'm sure later on we'll be discussing and we'll be getting more updates from Joash. So I will go back to what it is that we were discussing before we get to this aspect of the senatorial by-elections in Machakos. Back to the aspect of the BBI and this declaration by the Chebukati-led team in regards to the review of boundaries, in regards to the constituencies that have been incorporated, the 70 new ones, which IEBC both says, is not proper. And so in this case, we'd love to hear your view. You've been following up on this, and it is interesting again to note that Mheshimiwa says that when you were advocating for Punguza Mizigo, he was there in some review, but
he was one of the greatest fans.
He was one of the greatest fans. He should be still, because we say that a majority of the things have been incorporated in the BBI. It's a game of interest, Fred. Based on the fact that people say, this is what I fronted, was not captured, so I do not support the document. This is what I fronted, a couple have been captured, so in that case, I am okay. How do we get to balance this? How do we get to ensure that all these goodies that are probably incorporated in this document are not voted out just because people felt like their specific interest had not been met?
Thank you, Linda. First of all, I want to thank you for inviting me once again.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Now, allow me first of all to comment on the Chebukati issue yesterday when he appeared before the joint committee at the parliament. I think the media are trying to magnify a very simple problem. Okay. And I'll explain to you why. Because there's nothing wrong that stops the BBI from proposing the increment of the number of constituency to 70, particularly so that we can achieve the principle, the constitutional principle, which is a general principle of electoral system in Article 81, the principle of equality of vote based on, of course, universal suffrage. That is a constitutional principle, and there's nothing wrong with that. The provisions of law allows IEBC to do delimitation in Article 89. And the delimitation that IBC shall do are in two phases. One, they review the name and the boundaries of the wards. Two, they review the number, name, and boundary of the wards. Yes. Remember, number, name, and boundary of the wards. Right. But in doing constituencies, they don't review the number. That is what Article 89 says. Speaks. So the provisions in BBI Constitutional Amendment Bill talks of the number of constituency and doesn't talk of the name. And in BBI, under transitional consequential provisions, also allows IEBC now to take their role by ensuring that now they do delimitation as per the 70 new proposed constituencies. And therefore, there is no usurping of the role. What should happen is just consultation between IEBC and the proponents. And that's it. And that will happen anyway. And you know, the Constitution also provides that the delimitation of electoral units should be done at least 8 years and not more than 12 years. 8 years and not more than 12 months before the election.
The elections,
so that period is still there. We're still within that period.
Can we read this?
Yes.
All right, here we are.
But I want you to start from Article 88.4.
88.4.
Yes.
All right. First, well, I have Article 89. I might need to search that. But let's first look at, the Article 89, which is quite extensive, speaks of there shall be 290 constituencies for the purposes of election of the members of the National Assembly provided in Article 97.1. Now, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission shall review the names and boundaries of constituencies.
Names and boundaries of constituencies.
Note that. And at intervals of not less than 8 years and not more than 12 years. Correct. But any review shall be completed at least 12 months before a general election or members of parliament. The commission shall review the number, names, and boundaries of wards periodically.
Names and the boundaries of wards.
Yes.
Remember, in the earlier sabbatical, there was no number.
There was no number.
Absolutely.
All right. If a general election is to be held with 12 or within 12 months after the completion of a review of the commission, the new boundaries shall not take effect of purpose of that election. Now, the boundaries, that is 5, the boundaries of each constituency shall be such that the number of inhabitants in the constituency is nearly as possible equal to the population quota, but the number of inhabitants of a constituency may be greater or lesser than the population quota in the manner specified in clause 6 to take account of. Yes, a couple of things that sometimes we miss out on in regards to the word and the wordings of these particular clauses in the Constitution. You speak of Article what?
I want to read Article 88.
Article 88. That is the previous. Yes. Article 88 of Kenya's Constitution.
And go straight to Article 88 and read, just 1 second.
We have it here.
Yeah, so read straight to the provisions in Article 88. Sub
4, yeah?
Yeah.
The commission is responsible for conducting or supervising referendum and the elections to any elective body or office established by the Constitution and any other elections as prescribed by an act of parliament, and in particular we'll skip A and B and to C, the delimitation of constituencies and wards. Delimitations
of constituencies and wards.
Yeah.
That provision in Article 88.4c is read together with the provision Article 89. And that means that it is purely the function of IEBC to conduct delimitation of electoral units.
Yes.
That will be done. When you read the BBI proposal, the BBI proposal proposes the number of constituencies that will ensure that we achieve a constitutional principle of the general electoral system that requires that there is fair representation in Article 81D.
So now, in what capacity would IEBC consider this as unconstitutional?
That's why I'm saying, I think the reporting...
Is it the media really, or it's...
I think what the media is reporting...
The reporting was misplaced?
It is misreporting. If you ask me, it is misreporting. But if I read the words of Chebukati yesterday, what he was trying to say is that there ought to have been a consultation, even though the BBI proponents have got a right to propose the number. Remember, anytime you amend a constitution, there are two things you have to consider. You have to make what is not working better. You have to remove what is not working. Also, actually 3. Also, you have to ensure that in doing that, you implement the constitution. So if you read the objects and reasons of this bill, it also tries to implement. One of the things that we have failed to implement in this Constitution of Kenya 2010 is the principle of gender, 2/3 gender. Number 2 is the principle of fair representation. Because today, we have got constituencies in this country that are underrepresented. Going by the population census of 2019, there are many people and only one. The requirement is that it should be as close as possible to the population quota. The population quota demands that in urban areas be at least 40%, in rural at least 30, between 30% to 40%. But that number translates to at least 134,000 people per representative. Today, that is lacking. And therefore, I agree that when Chebukati says that, there ought to have been consultation, but I think Chebukati and team appeared before the BBI steering committee. They ought to have given those views. If they didn't give it, then there is also still time, because the bill allows IEBC now, within 6 months upon an enactment of the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Act at that time, then they shall delimit those units and give them names. But not numbers. The number they can give is only to the ward, not constituencies.
Okay, well, interesting conversation right here. A lot of schooling needs to be done so that people get to understand this. Briefly, allow me to loop in the other guest who is on standby via Skype. The main reason of us having him this morning is to discuss the reign of Magufuli and so much in regards to Tanzania, but he equally stays in the country, and so he'd be able to weigh in regards to this briefly. And we have Dr. David Nyakorach Masanga, who's the chair, Pan-African Forum, and also the CEO, Punchline Africa TV. Good to have you, sir, this morning.
Good morning. I don't know whether you are hearing me.
We can hear you very clearly, like we can hear you well.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning.
My old friend Sankok, the man that we battled the battles of ICC together.
Right.
Good morning, my younger man, Fred.
Good morning. Good morning, Dr.
You see, I have been listening to your conversation, and I hit it as it is.
Yes.
There are two things: proposal and a decision. In English language, let me go back to teach. What does it mean? What does Chebukati understand those two things? He doesn't. I am one of the few people, critics in this Africa of ours, who does not like Chebukati. In fact, Chebukati should have left this thing. He should not, if he did not know where the spoiled votes went, how will he know where the constituencies are?
Why do we still hold him then, acknowledging that?
No, wait, let me come. I'm hammering home. For me, when you call me on your TV, I don't have prisoners.
Okay.
I tell it, and then you can refer them to me to give a summons if they have any evidence.
Okay.
Chebukati should not even touch any of these things from now onwards. The Sankok, you are wasting a lot of time bickering left and right. Remove this guy from there. He should have gone. This guy will mess your country again. The articles that are there, Article 88, that Fred has read, clearly, it does not mean you should be the one doing it, but you do it in liaison with others. And that is all. That is what the other team has done. What Chebukati can do is to sit down and wait. This is a proposal that has been made in an amendment bill delivered to the parliament. Why is he waiting? Where was he when they met the BBI team? What did he say in the BBI team? If you look at what he said in the BBI team and what he's saying today, Linda, you might find a very big difference between the two.
Hold it right there, Dr. Hold it right there. It is getting heated right here. For a moment, I'm scared that maybe we might not get into this conversation deeper as we'd want, because then we have a couple of other things that we seek to address. It's now time that I take a quick break, Mheshimiwa. And then we have to take, it's a commercial break. Okay. It has been paid for, so we have no option but to proceed and take this break. But then again, we remind ourselves that it is a somber morning here in East Africa, across the global fraternity, upon the demise of Tanzania's president, that is Dr. John Pombe Magufuli. Yes, we continue to condole. The country declared 14 days of mourning, and indeed we join hands in the mourning of this, progressive president for that matter. We'll be coming to that discussion later, even as Tanzania officially gets a female president, something that also will be instrumental in terms of the change of leadership and the style of leadership in this particular country, the first one ever in East Africa. So we discuss that and more after this break.
Are you a storyteller? What is that untold story in your village? Tell us the story in 3 minutes. Submit that story to your untold stories at tv47.co.ke and stand a chance to win a camera and other goodies. The top stories will be aired on TV47 and the viewer will vote for the best story through the SMS number 22047. The story must be an evergreen story that has never been told before. The deadline for submitting the stories is March 15, 2021. The link is by SMS on TV47, the home of Untold Stories.
Only the wearer knows where it pinches the most. Soil fertility, proper temperature, water
are just some of the factors needed to make that crop germinate. And for that animal, adequate feeds and healthy conditions is what they need. Kilimo Diaries takes you to different farmers, markets, and processing companies and have you fully equipped for that agriculture venture. Kilimo Diaries, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. This month, the Throwdown treats your taste buds with a sweet ride down dessert heaven with delicious and tasty recipes that will make your sweet tooth tingle. The Throwdown, every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. Are you a storyteller? What is that untold story in your village? Tell us the story in 3 minutes. Submit that story to your untold stories at tv47.co.ke and stand a chance to win a camera and other goodies. The top stories will be aired on TV47 and the viewer will vote for the best story through the SMS number 22047. The story must be an evergreen story that has never been told before. The deadline for submitting the stories is March 15, 2021. The link is by SMS on TV47, the home of Untold Stories.
Only the wearer knows where it pinches the most. Soil fertility, proper temperature, water are just some of the
massive numbers on our social media platforms as we look at the events of the day. A majority of you coming out to condole with the people of Tanzania. Ben speaks of, yes, Ben, I don't know whether this is GRC or Gracie, says he was not my president, but he has made me very sad. My heart goes to the family and all the brothers and sisters of the Republic of Tanzania. A leader indeed, God remains. Of African story, we have lost indeed a leader. God remains God after all. R.I.P. President John Pombe Magufuli, true African. So we shall always remember you. Victor says, may his gentle soul rest in eternal peace. Wycliffe Manyonge, and many of you who are watching this morning, we certainly seek to address that aspect of Pan-Africanism and the fact that we had a leader in him that could speak the interest of Africans without having to fear what it is that the West would argue or the people would argue. Probably looking at his reign as one that was quite controversial, but equally celebrated, hugely. And so, gentlemen, back to the aspect of BBI as we close, because this is not the subject of the day. It was just part of, what has been captured on the newspapers. To you, Honorable Sankok, you had some reservations.
Yes, Daktari Msanga was good. He's actually a good friend of mine. Mm-hmm. We were together in ICC.
Right.
And we almost lost some tempers when we were dealing with recanted evidence.
Yes.
I remember there was a little scuffle inside the chambers of ICC when I and Masanga were fighting those evil societies. No, they are called civil societies.
Okay.
But they turned out to be evil societies.
All right.
And actually I was accused of molesting one lady, I think sexually, because I touched some parts. But I said I did not.
So that was not an accusation.
So
that
I said I did not intentionally.
Okay.
Although I felt something quite soft, but I don't know which part of the body.
Ouch.
Was it. Anyway, he's a very good friend of mine.
Okay. Well, sometimes we need some of these statements so we can laugh for a moment. Though, yes, a disclaimer.
Self-admission.
Yes.
No, it's not
Sankok has admitted.
Has admitted, I agree. And I'm surprised he says it's an allegation. It was not an allegation. ICJ is here, so we do not expect such again.
During a scuffle,
Yes.
Anything can happen. Okay.
Anything can happen.
All right. And you can be accused.
And we took the T-shirt.
Okay.
You can ask my friend Daktari.
I've heard him say that a couple of times and I thought it was a lie. So it is true. There were some funny T-shirts there.
Yeah, the T-shirts, imagine, and they allowed those people to come with T-shirts into ICC, yet there is an official dress code. So we are annoyed with it. We took the T-shirts and we wrapped to our shoes. But there it's very clean.
Right.
I tried to maybe dirtify
the shirt by
they remain white again. Anyway, that is
right.
beside the point.
Okay.
But Daktari was very true. He was very correct that BBI have proposed the number of constituencies, and it is a proposal. Then the moment we have proposed the number of constituencies, now the work of delimitation and giving names will go to the right institution that is given that mandate by the constitution. Okay. But I think Chebukati sometimes just decide to misbehave because he knows his work. The constitution does not give him the power and mandate to propose.
The proponents sort of knew that this would come up. Why is it that it had to take such a while before he was consulted? Because he probably,
if he doesn't want to carry the referendum, if he's not confident that he will be able to carry on the referendum and also the election of 2022, I think he should just resign.
In the event that he resigns, what next? Remember the quorum and the numbers, Fred, briefly, in the events that he decides to step out or resign. You can imagine the crisis. Yes, Daktari, briefly?
Before Fred is an expert in this field.
Yes.
I just want to concur briefly with Sankok.
Yeah.
We fought a battle. I jumped commando style. You saw my commando tactics.
All right.
Which I trained in Tanzania. I'm a soldier. Some people think I'm a civilian. I trained in Tanzania where Magufuli has died. Today, I jumped over 4 chairs to get the T-shirt with Sankok. And the people
Daktari, why don't we believe you?
Okay, thank you. I don't know, I don't care, but let me come to this point.
Okay.
Linda, don't battle too much. You can go to school, you can look at school, but if you have not entered the school, you have not gone to study.
Okay.
Chebukati went to school, but he did not study.
Okay.
It's very simple. Procedure is very clear. Proposal is different from decision. There is another body to look at what the BBI has proposed. Full stop. If Chebukati is not ready to look at this election, Fred there knows me and that group of Chebukati and that group. Fred, we have suffered a lot, but this is not the national television where I should tell the truth about Chebukati and Akombe. Please, let's keep quiet. Let Kenyans have a peaceful way of living, and we live it. Chebukati, you have done enough good job, go away.
His endorsement of this document, Daktari, would be instrumental towards winning the hearts of the voters equally. And so how is he going to be tamed? Because again, we cannot afford to lose him at this crucial stage. Briefly.
Linda, it's not Chebukati to endorse the document. Yes. Chebukati is the chairman of Independent Electoral Boundary Commission, IBC. So his thinking also is independent, and he has a right to say whatever he's saying. However, we have established that it is not the work of IBC to propose the number of constituencies. The provision in law is that the IBC shall review the names and boundaries of constituencies, but also shall review the number, names, and boundary of wards. What has been proposed in the BBI bill is the number of constituencies. Okay. So to that extent, there is no function of IBC that has been usurped. Okay. Number 3, when IEBC decides probably now to resign, whoever resigns, God forbid that happens, the law has also provided for a Kiwa. Okay. The president, within 7 days of announcing that vacancy, shall get the names, and then the recruiting panel shall put a team in place. That is possible. Okay. But also we don't want to get to that level where we are exiting the office and then we bring in new team. You remember the report that was given, a critical report sometimes back, at least 6 months before the general election. And that's why if you read the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2020, it says that where the occupant of office with tenure of office leaves office, then the recruitment shall be done at least 6 months before the occupant leaves office and before that occupant, the next one occupies office. That is the provision in BBI. So it's already been keyword. But in this instance, I think the issue is not whether the BBI is usurping the role of IEBC or not. The issue is that we should understand BBI has proposed a number of constituencies so that it implements the general principle of electoral system. Number two, the proposal keywords a number of things, as I've said, and this proposal is just giving the number. The law requires IEBC to review the names, not the number of constituencies. Then thereafter, the IEBC will review the names and the number of words therein. Right. So to that extent, there's nothing wrong that has happened. But I think in the spirit of consultation, and I believe Chebukati, Mr. Wafula Chebukati, appeared before the steering committee. He gave his views as a commission that was taken in. There is another chance when Kenyans will have an opportunity to either accept the proposal or reject the proposal in a referendum. That will be the last public participation in this process.
All right. Okay, we close this one, gentlemen. The other time again, we had the elections in Tanzania, the main elections, the actual day. We had Fred here again. And so for a moment, we all deliberated and said, we're not going to focus much on the elections in Tanzania. Let's focus on what is happening in the country. But today, we cannot leave this set without focusing on what has played out upon the demise of Dr. John Pombe Magufuli. Of course, his style of reign, and coming to you, Honorable Sankok, one that has been criticized and celebrated in equal measures, the way he's handled issues, the radical approach, and also the aspect of him going so radical in dealing with corruption and, you know, trying his level best to boost the economy of Tanzania. What would be your words, you know, in regards to the style of reign of Magufuli?
Linda, first of all, allow me again to repeat that on my own behalf and on behalf of my family and on behalf of persons with disability in East Africa, of which I am the chairman, East African Council for Persons with Disability, we want to send our sincere condolences to the people of Tanzania. May God give them protection and strength at this trying moment. I also send my sincere condolences to the Parliament of Tanzania on my own behalf and on behalf of members of Parliament from Kenya, because Tanzania is part of our East Africa community. We want to sincerely condole with them, and may God give them strength as well as they navigate through the harsh terrain that have been brought about by the death of their president. Right. I know they have a duty, probably as a parliament, to nominate or to vet the nominee for the position of the vice president. It is interesting now that we have a lady as the president in an East African country, and I hope this trend go on so that even in Kenya, we will also have probably a president lady or a vice president lady, and probably in future, we'll have a president or a deputy president who is a person with disability.
Hold it right there. Maybe many would be asking, why is it that Honorable Sankok has already declared that it is a lady president in Tanzania? Let's briefly look at what the Constitution of Tanzania dictates in terms of, you know, what happens upon the demise of the sitting president. I mean, having been re-elected in October 2020, then definitely he's taken his reign. He's just started the second term, so it's still young, or so to speak. And so let's have that board that speaks of the Constitution of Tanzania. That is the Chapter 2 and Part 1, Article 37, Sub 5 of the Constitution of Tanzania in regards to the changes of leadership, or what happens after the president is dead, where the office of the president becomes vacant by reason of the death of the president, his resignation, loss of the electoral qualifications, or inability to perform his functions due to physical infirmity or failure failure to discharge the duties and functions of the office of the president, then the vice president shall be sworn in and become the president for the unexpired period of term or the term of 5 years, and in accordance with the conditions set out in Article 40. Then, after consultation with the political party to which he belongs, the president, he or she actually, the president shall propose the name of the person who shall be vice president, and such appointment shall be confirmed by the National Assembly by votes of not less than 50% of all members of parliament. That is why Honorable Sankok says that Mama Samia takes up automatically as the president of Tanzania.
Excellency, Mama Samia.
Yes.
So,
all right.
You know, as part of East Africa, I've read, and as a legislature, I've read quite extensively all the constitutions of our partner countries, including Rwanda and other countries, Uganda, and so on. So that is why I understand what the constitution said. So, by the way, the leadership of Magufuli, as much as we admire his leadership style, he was in touch with the hustlers of his country. He's always on the ground, making sure that they are very comfortable. You remember him making phone calls in a public baraza that this should be done, to uplift the life of hustlers. And I understood that he wanted the bottom-up kind of approach in terms of economic development in his country. But I had some little problem with Magufuli, one of them as a Maasai, because you remember he auctioned our cows back then. I think they crossed the border, and we have so many other cows from Tanzania crossing the border. In fact, the Maasai people are many in Tanzania more than in Kenya. That is why Olowasa was almost becoming the president of Tanzania, because there we have big chances of becoming president more than we have in Kenya. Our population is very high in Kenya. Also, you remember when chicks from Kenya, chickens were banned. And also, there is so many persons with disability in Kenya from Tanzania who are refugees, who are begging on our streets. And I've consulted with our counterparts in the East African Council for Persons with Disability from Tanzania to make the environment favorable, just the way Uhuru Kenyatta made sure that the achievement of disability rights is done in Kenya, and made Kenya a very favorable country for immigrants, persons with disability. And you know, Kenyans are very generous. Most of the people you see with disability that are begging in our streets are actually Tanzania. From Tanzania. And I have always asked the late Magufuli, please take your refugee person with disability. You know, we cannot force them to go. You know, dealing with a person with disability is a bit,
you have to be a bit
humane,
sensitive. Yes,
you know, sensitive, you know, taking them back. But I asked him, Kenya have given tax exemption to persons with disability. Persons with disability import duty-free vehicles. They access to government procurement opportunities through ACPO. They also sign language is the third official language. Disability mainstreaming in many departments, ministries, and agencies of government is there. It's a performance contract indicator. So there is a lot that have been done to make the environment for the disability rights achieved since 2013, since the reign of His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta. So I had some little problem, but generally, Magufuli is a good leader.
All right, I have gentlemen who are really vocal and are able to articulate the issues so well, but I'd request that we, you know, at least try and balance the time. So at least we are fair for, you know, on each other, because at the end of the day, it is important that we also have time, you know, proper time to weigh in our sentiments. Dr. David Nyekorach Masanga, and I'd love for you to equally weigh in on the style of leadership of Magufuli. Later on the broadcast, we'll be getting a hold of Honorable Tundu Lissu, and we get his sentiments in regards to this. If my memory serves me right, there was a point that you were discussing or talking about, well, that is at the demise of, again, His Excellency Kofi Annan. You argued that while he was instrumental in terms of leadership in Kenya, and you said, well, while many would have subscribed to his style of leadership, you are amongst the few Africans who probably criticize the same. And even upon his demise, you were very, I would not want to say mean with your words, but you equally did not pretend.
I did not I did not drop a tear.
A tear. And for the same
Yes.
reason, Tundu Lissu says that, he would not wish anyone death. But then again, he would go through the obituary of this individual with some level of pleasure. Well, based on the animosity that he's faced during the reign of Magufuli. What would you say about this?
First of all, viewers of TV 47, I first knew Tanzania in 78 when I landed there as a younger man to fight Idi Amin. Tanzanians are conservative people. That's one point you have to know.
Yeah.
Tanzanians, they don't talk anyhow, like we Ugandans and the Kenyans.
Mm-hmm.
They are very conservative. And if you want to understand them, that is the way you live with them for a long time and be a friend of them, like I have been for a long time. My commander in Jikosi Maalum is called General Musuguri. He's still alive. Mm-hmm. He's still there, living in Morogoro. That is, you have to understand them. Moving on fast. There are those who might criticize Magufuli. In our culture, when someone has gone down and died, he's not there to be able to defend himself. We don't usually criticize. But let's come back to reality. Just as Sankok has said, this gentleman is a Pan-African. The man stood for Africa, for his continent. Whatever might have happened, he cut down travel. He did not attend United Nations conferences. He cut down all this. Tanzania was beginning to boom, to come up. And one of the reasons that I want you to know, and I want you to take seriously why Magufuli was fought, is because he became out radical. You tried to become a radical to oppose the Gladiolo Otienos of this country. The Harun Duvis of this country.
Civil society in this case.
Civil society.
The civil society Sankoko has talked about. Try to oppose them, and then you will see. They will go and blacklist. I'm the only one they have not managed, because I always fight them direct, like I fought Gladiolo Otieno direct to save William Ruto under Rule 68. I had to tear that t-shirt with Sankok. So let me tell you frankly, right. Magufuli did a very good job for his people. There are those who might say it's bad. There are those who might say all sorts of things. But he has left a legacy. One, corruption. He never entertained corruption. He never entertained. What is killing Africa is corruption. Two, look at all the presidents who worked so hard on African continent. Mugabe worked so hard, a Pan-African. Nyerere. I was one of the few people who went to bury Nyerere.
Right.
Nyerere again also disappeared for about 3 weeks, almost 2 months, without appearing anywhere in public. And when you go to his house, Nyerere's house, some presidents, people in Africa, if you gave them that opportunity, they would have a house which is near heaven. But Nyerere's house was very, very ordinary house where he was buried in Tanzania. Magufuli lived that type of life. But there is a problem also.
Make it brief.
And we want to balance that.
Yes.
Africa, we have a sense of very bad mindset. Mm-hmm. We live in denial.
That is what informs the silence and sometimes, the mystery that revolves around the disappearing of presidents.
Thank you very much. At times, we live in denial because we believe in other things, and we don't look at ourselves that we Africans first. There are so many leaders in the world who cannot be seen for even a month. North Korean leader, do you see him every day?
No.
It takes even 6 months. Are people not united in North Korea?
They are, but we are not used to that. We are not used to a Magufuli who is not in the public eye.
That's why I'm bringing you to where it is. On the question of, to cut it so that I don't miss my points, on the question of East African integration, I want to say frankly, we were going very far apart as far integration, East African integration was.
Allow me to loop in, Fred, and then we come back to the aspect of East African integration, because it's one of the points that I seek to have us equally weigh on, especially in regards to the relationship that has or exists between Kenya and the East African countries, the other East African countries, the Somali tussle that we have today. I mean, the tussle that was evident between between Kenya and Tanzania. Fred, coming to you, and this is crucial, but importantly also is his style of leadership and the last days on how he's handled the novel coronavirus.
Thank you, Linda. First of all, allow me to send my message of condolence to the people of Tanzania. I have a lot of great friends. Some of them we school with them in the university in Tanzania, and they have had it very rough during this time of corona. I convey my sympathy and accept my deepest condolence in regards to the death of your president, Dr. John Joseph Pombe Magufuli. It is a very sad moment for the East African community. But we also know that Magufuli was almost becoming a strong man, you know, and he was a very popular leader with the people of Tanzania. If you recall, he used to do roadside rallies and invite the, what they call wakuu wa wilaya to come and tell the public what they are doing to secure their future and offer solution to their problems. And he could do it without even thinking about anything, because that is the style of leadership. And we also know that this is a leader who never traveled outside his country since he was elected. He never. He remained in his country, and he cut down the cost of government expenditure. He cut down his cabinet, he cut down the cost of his expenditure. He made it his business to ensure that they buy Tanzania, they eat Tanzania, they live Tanzania, they sleep Tanzania. He loved Jumuiya Afrika Mashariki as a leader. He loved Jumuiya Tanzania, and people admired him in the initial stages. But came Corona. For some reason, he never believed that this disease could ravage his country, till very last minute when I think he was advised that, Mr. President, I think we have a problem. And we are told also that the cause of his death could have been heart attack. But we also know that corona is very dangerous with the people with the pre-existing conditions. So to that level, we can only wish the people of Tanzania well. And I am strongly convinced that the Vice President is a capable lady. I've seen her before do marvelous things, but unfortunately, she has also witnessed the death of many senior government officials. If you remember the president of Zanzibar, she witnessed the death of another senior government official in Tanzania. A couple of them, there are like 4 of them. It is unfortunate. We pray for her, we pray for Tanzania, but we want to say as the people of Kenya, because we are good neighbors with Tanzania, even though they took cows from Sankok's herd. That one they will pay. Now,
and our chicks though from Western region.
The issue here is, Linda, I must congratulate the government of Kenya, and I can tell you why. We have seen how governments struggle with containment measures towards corona. And look at our country. The president has been very consistent. We might have challenges, but look, he has been very consistent, and I have to congratulate the people of Kenya. They have tried their best to wear masks, to keep social distance, to wash their hands. Look, Sankok is a very good friend of mine. I'm 1 kilometer away from him. And you see, we are doing this because we love this country, because we love our families. Tanzanian people lost even priests in the last 3 months, many of them, and it is believed that they lost them as a result of corona. We want to ask the Kenyan people, you watch what happens within our neighborhood, and you have seen the deaths. You saw it in Burundi, you saw it in Tanzania. Kenya, we are still standing. Why? Because we are a resilient people, we obey rules, we observe the Ministry of Health protocol, I want to ask the few that probably still believe that this is a joke. It is not a joke.
Right.
The president has told us that please protect your families, but before you protect your family, protect yourself so that you can protect your families. Please let us protect ourselves so that we protect the entire nation. But as I finish, the people of Tanzania must also understand that this is the time that their neighbors come and pray with them. Uganda, where my good friend Dr. Masanga comes from, pray with them. Tanzania, Kenya, pray with them.
He doesn't like, all right.
where
For whatever reasons. All right, well, Sankok, Mama, Her Excellency, Mama Samia Suluhu takes the reign at this time where, you know, there's a bit of questions as to COVID-19. Well, her announcement also in a way criticized people looking at it, you know, with a political lens, or so to speak. You know, she comes there and announces this probably in the absence of very many other key leaders. And probably, maybe, let me not speak. Let's just listen to that announcement briefly, then come to you and you will be telling us just how well will he be able to deal with the system of leadership as at now, as she takes up the mantle. We know very well that in most cases in Africa, you have the presidents and, you know, the deputies or the vices in most cases do not have much of a say. And so they don't actively get involved in the running of the activities. Will she be able to take up the challenge and, you know, fit in the shoes of Magufuli? How will she deal with COVID-19? How will the people receive her? And so much so. Let's listen into that.
Nchi, kwa masikitiko makubwa nawajulisha kuwa leo tarehe 17 Machi mwaka huu 2021 majira ya saa 12 jioni tumempoteza kiongozi wetu shupavu, Rais wa Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania, Mheshimiwa Dr. John Pombe Joseph Magufuli, ambaye amefariki kwa maradhi ya moyo katika hospitali ya Mzena jijini Dar es Salaam alipokuwa akipatiwa matibabu. Mheshimiwa Rais Magufuli alilazwa tarehe 6 Machi mwaka huu katika taasisi ya moyo ya Jakaya Kikwete kwa tatizo la mfumo wa umeme, tatizo la moyo la mfumo wa umeme ambalo kitaalamu linajulikana kama chronic atrial fibrillation, ambalo alikuwa nalo kwa zaidi ya miaka 10. Aliruhusiwa tarehe 7 Machi mwaka huu na kuendelea na majukumu yake. Tarehe 14 Machi mwaka huu alijisikia vibaya na akakimbizwa hospitali ya Mzena, ambapo aliendelea na matibabu chini ya uangalizi wa madaktari na wauguzi wa taasisi ya moyo ya Jakaya Kikwete hadi umauti ulipomkuta. Mipango ya mazishi inafanywa na mtajulishwa. Nchi yetu itakuwa katika kipindi cha maombolezo kwa siku 14 na bendera zitapepea nusu mlingoti. Bwana ametoa, jina lake lihimidiwe. Asanteni sana.
Well, a country that is more of a patriarchal society, but at least we see adjustments nowadays as they have come to a point where they acknowledge the importance of women in society, the capability of women, understanding the leadership of women, and also acknowledging the same. Will she fit into the shoes of Magufuli?
First of all, I don't know what, Linda, you mean by patriarchal society. You know, sometimes you talk as if you...
Is it not straight to the point?
No, it's not straight to the point.
Why do you want to counter that?
You are here yourself.
I am here, but I am talking about Tanzania.
About
times are changing, at least.
Tanzania, they have the
times are changing.
Vice president being a lady.
Even ours has been a patriarchal society.
No, is it today that
we do not want to start this debate because we'll have a couple of things to pinpoint and, you know, ably argue. But anyway.
You know, sometimes you people, I think there is some inferiority complex, but I don't want to come to that.
The truth and gender, like the one who pinpointed
the truth is that what men can do, women can do better. They can even do the campaign better than men. So there is no problem. Anyway, for me, I've not interacted with Her Excellency Mama Samia so much, but I'm sure if the people of Tanzania believed in her to be the vice president,
right,
and first of all, the first vice president in the whole of East and Central Africa.
Female.
So I'm sure she is capable, being a female vice president and now being a president of Tanzania according to their constitution. I wish her all the best. The only thing, a little advice that I may have to her, if she is watching us, TV 47, you know, TV 47 is also very popular nowadays.
Yeah, it is.
So I'm sure if she's watching, I want her to consult with Uhuru Kenyatta, especially on matters of East Africa and also on matters of COVID-19.
Okay.
Because as my friend have said, Fred, that our president have really tried. He have been very consistent, and we are still standing very strong, courtesy of his firm leadership, that he have always asked us to protect ourselves, to protect our families, and to protect others. And Kenyans have been very loyal to their leadership, and that is why they have really sticked on that. And unfortunately, in Tanzania, there was a bit of a relax.
But if the situation was that dire, do you suppose we'd still be having them, you know, stand as they stand today? I mean, while they say that there's not much of, you know, democracy enjoyed there in terms of going out to speak of the scenario, is the situation as dire as projected, honestly, down there?
You know, when it comes to COVID-19, Linda, it only depends whether you want the numbers to be known, because you know, we know the numbers that have been lost in Tanzania, especially the cream of the society, the priests, the top government officials, and others.
Right.
But do you really know the hustlers that have been lost?
Yeah.
You know, you may decide, if today Kenya decide that there will be no numbers of COVID-19, just stop the testing. No, just stop the testing. The moment you stop the testing, of course, people will die like rats and nobody will know. Kenyan, our president have given us leadership.
In this era of social media, nobody will know?
Yes, in this era of social media, you know the figures. Do you know the figures through social media?
Well, of course,
no, you don't
announcements.
Know. Even at the moment, we don't know. You know, the coronavirus itself does not kill. It only give opportunistic infection, just like HIV, to kill you. So there will always be a reason. Diabetes have taken you, high blood pressure have taken you, chronic atrial fibrillation have taken you. But in the real sense, it may be because of the attack of coronavirus. So in any case, even with this social media, you will not have known. It is only because of the steadfast leadership of our president, who gave the mandate, the committee that deal with, that is led by Mutai Kagwe, that they should be testing and announcing daily on our progress in terms of COVID-19.
All right.
And the protocol that have been given by the Ministry of Health have been good. Kenyans have been observing. So I request maybe Mama Samia, Her Excellency, to consult with Uhuru Kenyatta on that front.
Well, on numerous occasions we've talked of a scenario where, as East Africa, as the African fraternity, we can have, you know, a common approach as to dealing with COVID-19. We have had, you know, meetings, virtual meetings, set by the leaders, but on several occasions also we've seen Magufuli absent in some of these virtual sessions. Dr. David, what does this speak about African integration, about East African integration?
Thank you very much. I want to say, and I want to thank the panel. Truly, Kenya, before I make my other point, Kenya has fought so well on the question of COVID-19. And I want to take this opportunity to thank President Uhuru Kenyatta for his steadfast leadership in fighting COVID-19. Two, on the question of East African integration, I seem to have been one of the few men around who has been a friend of Chikwete, a friend of Mkapa, a friend of Nyerere when I was young, and a friend of Magufuli today. He's left a gap, but he's left a vision of an East Africa, an East Africa that is cut between the East and the South. As you know, Tanzania is in SADC and then in East African Community. Those complications have always been there. That's why you see, I don't know whether you are hearing me properly.
Yes, we can hear you well, Daktari.
That's why you see there's been these hiccups,
right,
of Sankoko's cows taken, Sankoko's chicken taken, and then these cries have been there because Tanzania is cut between two parts. They are conservative. They believe that they can relate more with Southern African SADC organization than they could relate with East African community.
But we've also seen the other East African brothers, in a way, helping to fuel this. I mean, remember that time. And I mean, it is okay. It is well placed for Magufuli to have, called on Museveni to work with them on the lapses and railways with Rwanda and all that. It is in order. But why is it that the others equally seem to be in agreement with the same? Has Kenya left a sort of, bad taste in their mouths that it has to get to this point?
The men on this panel will agree with me 110%. We are being invaded by external darker forces. The darker forces of NGO. Who is harassing? Bring that Lusu on TV today.
Yes.
I want to go away. I want to face him. These guys go, that Mr. Fred Okongo has suffered the NGO syndrome.
Okongo, yes.
Until they overthrew their chairman. Because these guys go and get dollars from George Soros,
right,
and pour them in Tanzania. Magufuli was hated because he refused those dollars from coming to Tanzania. And we should have one person to stand up for Africa also. Magufuli did not do anything wrong. Magufuli was saying, apart from the COVID situation, how many NGOs were undermining the Tanzanian sovereignty? If you look at all opposition leaders in Africa, Linda Sankok,
yes,
and Okongo, my brother, all leaders from Zimbabwe, opposition leaders, they are being funded by an external darker force. We are having a war in Indian Ocean coming from Somalia.
Would you term the declarations of Tundu Lissu, raising concerns on the fact that we are not able to see our leader, raising alarm on what is happening, that it's not clear as to what is happening? Would you term that as someone who's being driven or being puppeteered by the hands of the West or the NGOs that you speak about?
Yes.
I mean, he's just being honest, and eventually he's been vindicated.
Look, let me tell you for free.
Make it brief so we can have Fred come in, right?
Yes. If you are not careful, the whole of Africa will be usurped by NGOs. True. And let's be very careful.
Okay.
I might not be here tomorrow to tell you, but my voice will remain here. George Soros is paying to usurp Africa. And don't be happy about Joe Biden, because he's going to take over this place, encourage these NGOs. Yes, encourage these NGOs. You see what is in Senegal. Are you seeing what is in Senegal?
Right.
There is fire. A country where there was peace, there is fire. See what is going out in Uganda across. You fear to talk about it. I have kept quiet and I don't want to talk about it. Because NGO from outside have come, and for me, when I see you going towards an NGO from outside, that's why I and Sankok jumped and commando style and did a good job on some of those boys to save Ruto on Rule 68.
We seek to achieve youthful leadership, Daktari. Let's allow Okongo come in regards to that very note on the infiltration of the NGO. Yes?
Give me a chance before he comes in. Let me make my point. Today we have a problem of standoff of maize. I was very happy, and for me, where a man, whether he's an enemy, does a good thing, I give a credit.
Okay.
President Kaguta Museveni, my good brother that we fought together a war and separated, stood up in his national television and said, hello, don't blame Kenya. Blame the farmers and the agriculture officers of Uganda. He said it on national television. And here we are, we were busy blaming Kenyan officials for not allowing maize to come in. He said, no, we want such standing leaders.
Okay.
Magufuli was one of them who could tell you, I am sorry, I'm not going that way. But on the seriousness of it, look at the Tanzanian constitution. One person must come from the mainland and the other one must come from the island.
Yes.
Therefore, this time it is first in history that it has left the islander, Mama Sulu, to be the remaining standing woman. Now what she has to do, and the Tanzanians are not very bad people like us, Ugandans, and some people here, we are difficult at making chaos. Tanzanians will accept her and take her on board to give democracy for her to lead this nation. Finally, COVID-19, Linda.
Yes.
COVID-19, I don't know why those two gentlemen in the studio are not wearing masks even when they are talking. COVID-19, yes.
There's a social distance, properly sanitizing.
No.
Okay.
No. My dear younger sister, please, this thing is very bad. And let those who play about it.
Well, at least we have social distancing here, Daktari,
yes,
and proper sanitization.
But when it comes, you should wear your mask, even if you are popping out for tea.
Yes.
Wear your mask, please. This thing is
all right.
dangerous.
Hold it, Daktari.
So,
let's bring in Fred briefly. We still have time for you. Fred, East African integration, and for the longest of time, we've seen our leaders failing to achieve what they seek to achieve or what we expect them to achieve. And while there could be some tendency of truth in what the two gentlemen speak of infiltration and maybe, external hands, sometimes we tend to point fingers a lot, yet we have failed, yet the leadership has indeed failed. Would we squarely blame it on the external hand in regards to the animosity or the coldness that we tend to have as the East African community?
First of all, just to reassure Dr. Masanga, my very good friend,
that you have your mask.
And I'm keeping social distance. But because I need to speak, and I cannot even shake Sankok's
you better say that.
I also have a sanitizer in my pocket when I walk here and use that. And TV47 have also given us sanitizer.
You have seen my sanitizer.
You have it, but you don't have a mask on. It's just because maybe you're alone there. We'll want to assume so.
Linda,
I'm alone.
East African community has done a good job. Jumuiya ya Afrika Mashariki. And if you listen to the anthem, the East African anthem,
yes,
it is wonderful. It gives hope. It inspires the community that, we are one thing, we can do so much together. To that extent, it is okay. But I agree with Dr. Masanga when he says that there are foreign institutions that are now against the unity of East African community, and they have managed to put and infiltrate the community through bad politics. They are sponsoring politics of chaos. They are sponsoring some institutions in the East African community to destabilize governments.
Right.
That is something that we have seen and we have witnessed. But be that as it may, I also believe within the East African community, there are also certain leaders who have not lived to the expectation. That is true. There are people like, for example, in our neighboring countries that recently had an election. You saw what happened. Right. That was not democracy. But we have to give it to the struggle in those countries. Okay. The young people have come up and they have said, we are no longer leaders of tomorrow. Neither are we leaders of today. We are leaders of now. We want this now. And I keep saying, when you feel angry, you don't wait for tomorrow. You eat then. You eat at that time. The young people of this country, Tanzania and Uganda, have said that their time to occupy leadership positions is now.
Right. And
that aspiration and that desire to lead has ruffled so many feathers in this community. So, to go back to what you asked, if you look at the East African community, the reason why the East African community came together is to build each other so that we can move forward together as a region. And that has not been very welcome with some foreign powers. So what they do, they influence the decisions and then they sponsor some of this chaos that we see in the region. But I agree. In Kenya, we are lucky to have a president that believes in dialogue. And you can see that today, the former opposition leader and the president is sitting together with the president and agree on so many things. Recently, they had a discussion on how to contain COVID. Currently, they're talking on how we can move this country forward. You know, that is okay. Have you seen that in Uganda? Have you seen that in Tanzania? You cannot see that because in those countries, they have got their way of life. And that's why I'm saying, and I agree with Sankok, when Sankok say now, the vice president who's now who is likely to be the president of Tanzania, Madam Samia, must now borrow a lot from the East African community, and particularly Kenyan community, where the President of the Republic of Kenya, Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, has shown that we can compete, but we don't need to be enemies. But particularly now when President John Pombe Magufuli has died, he has a bigger role to unite that country. And remember, Tanzania is not just that Tanzania. They've got the island and the mainland. Those two must be brought together. Remember also, somebody has also died from the island side. This time, the president also died this side. It is very unfortunate. And she's getting in at a time when they need more than unity, because now they also need prayers. And as I said earlier, as a country that believes in the unity of the East African community, we will pray with them. But more so, we will support them. I believe President Kenyatta, who is watching this show, because I'm told the president normally watches this show, is well versed with how, as an East African community, they can help our neighbors in Uganda, they can help our neighbors in Tanzania. But we must call a spade a spade. There are certain instances where our neighbors have not behaved well. And when they go wrong, we must call them out. There are certain, remember during the issues of COVID, crossing in Tanzania, the border, Namanga, coming into Kenya, there were issues where the Tanzanians were saying, you know, Kenyans wakae kwao, Tanzania wakae kwao because of this.
Truck drivers were saying we were radical.
And it was bad. Busia, the same thing. We want to ask them now. Now that we have shown resilience, we have shown the level of accountability, and we have shown that we are fighting the COVID-19. They must now work together with Kenya to ensure that we move together as Jumuiya ya Afrika Mashariki. Na wale ndugu zetu wa Tanzania tunawaombea sana, kwa sababu mmepoteza kiongozi shupavu, lakini liwe liwalo, lazima tusonge mbele. We must move forward, Tanzania. We must move forward as Kenya. This East African community must build something that even in death, even in happiness, we still strong and stand together.
All right. How do we get to hold them at this particular time, in as much as we await for them to reach out?
Yes. First of all, Linda, surely East African community cannot survive. African Union, African United States cannot survive.
Why?
The aspiration of Muammar Gaddafi, the aspiration of Mugabe cannot survive because of the infiltration of evil society. And I call them evil society because most of these civil societies that I call them evil societies, in fact, we tried to tame it in parliament because most of them have their paymasters outside this country.
Right.
And we said for a civil society to talk on behalf of Kenya or to talk on behalf of Tanzania must be supported by Kenyan taxpayers. But when your paymaster is from outside, you should talk and behave on behalf of your paymaster. But you find in international conferences, the evil societies are talking on behalf of Kenya, that are questioning the leadership that is in Kenya, have their paymaster elsewhere.
If you look at the numbers of them that are registered within different parts of the African country, I mean, there are very many, numerous numbers for that matter. Does it then mean that we're fighting a losing battle when we're talking about African integrity?
And we had a bill in parliament that says that you can only talk on behalf of an African country if that particular African country is the one, specifically Kenya, is the one that is sponsoring you, and your paymaster are Kenyan, Kenyan taxpayers. That 70% of your resources are from within.
But don't you also acknowledge that they are instrumental in terms of making the people get the rights that they deserve?
They are totally not instrumental, because you cannot bite the hand that feed you. And you know that our foreign masters are the same foreign people who scramble for Africa in the first scramble. Now they have the second scramble for Africa, especially the scramble for raw materials. Because they lack the raw material, we have the raw material, they have to scramble for Africa for the raw material. And that is why you find countries that are the highest producers of copper, like Ghana, and they are not rich. They don't have any factory that produce that copper. We produce tea here. We don't refine the tea here. They are refined elsewhere, and they bring it back and sell us at a very high prices. All of our materials, the foreign countries are scrambling for our raw material. They take our raw material, they go and refine them. The cocoa is produced in Ghana. That is the highest. The world largest producer of cocoa is Ghana. What does cocoa make? Is chocolate. Does Ghana produce any chocolate? No. They take the raw material, produce chocolate, sell at an exorbitant price back to Ghana. So that is what we are saying, is that for any civil society to talk on behalf of Kenyan or on behalf of Tanzania, it must be receiving its funds from the taxpayers of that respective country. Coming to Tanzania, wish them all the best. We know Mama Samia will fit in the shoes, and I know Tanzania will accept Mama Samia, but I want to request Mama Samia, please, in God's name, let's have the East African community moving forward. This issue of auctioning cows from, it was only because we had a very good president. Otherwise, we'll have had a diplomatic role with Tanzania, because you cannot kill our chicks and accept us just to just say, okay, it's okay. In fact, Kenyan government compensated those farmers that their animals, their livestock were auctioned in Tanzania. Their cows were auctioned. They compensated. Yet we know who auctioned. But because of a president that need and have good intention for the East African community, said, okay, the cows we can compensate, and then we move on. So I hope Mama Samia will learn a lot from Uhuru Kenyatta and make sure that the East African community whole.
All right.
They also need to support the East African Council for Persons with Disability in line with Article 120C of the East African Constitution.
All right, as we still try and to see how we get a hold of Honorable Tundu Lissu, Daktari, I come to you on the aspect of democracy, freedom of speech, the gagging of media in most of the African countries. Tanzania is one that has been labeled for that. There's not much of freedom in terms of, the people of Tanzania, the citizens going out there to express what it is that they feel about the leadership in question, and so much so. Do you suppose this was in the individual of Magufuli, or is something that is healthy towards maintaining stability of our nation?
Thank you very much. First of all, I agree with the sentiments down by the panel. One, at the beginning of my submission, I told you Tanzanians are conservative people. Take that point and understand them from that point of view.
Yes.
Two, why has there been no big war in Tanzania, and there has been several wars and violence in the rest of East Africa? Because they are united. They are united from the bottom household up to the top. Information in Tanzania, why they listen to their leaders. They are submissive to their leaders. They don't insult their leaders. They give you the wheel and the rope to walk on. If you look at the Ujamaa villages, the setting up of Ujamaa villages, it brought a social contract. Jermaine, what is lacking in Africa is social contract. The Ujamaa villages brought people together that if you don't have salt, you give salt to the neighbor. The neighbor will borrow soap to wash his clothes. That's why you see Tanzanians are very well reserved on that. Even when you go to a restaurant in Dar es Salaam, Fred will attest to this, that the people serving you in the restaurant will serve you with decorum.
Right.
And in Tanzania, you don't whistle to a waitress. But look at our places. Waitress can even throw the soup on your tie. We don't have decorum. That's why Tanzania united. When it was united, if you talk about democracy, it depends on what type of democracy. Africa is only 66 years out of the first country that got independence. United Kingdom is 1,800 years. Now you want to impose 1,800 years type of democracy on Africa.
166.
All right.
It is impossible. What the opposition, let me tell you, and you have known me for a long time, longer than anybody, on this, and Sankoko knows my stand, Akongo knows my stand. I don't want to see the eyes of these NGOs. I don't like to see them. David Matanga, I don't like to see these NGOs. They only appear during elections. But when you tell them they go and get the money from abroad to teach people how to wash hands. They build houses in palatial homes. Do you know there are NGOs in Kenya and Uganda and Tanzania that are supposed to teach people how to wash their hands and the latrines and dig latrines and so on? Where do you see them in your villages?
No.
No. So look at this. And the generation remaining behind. For me, I'm in the 60s going on my way when God takes me, if at a time that he has prepared. I want to be very candid that if you rely on the dollar from George Soros, you are damn dead. You are finished. They want to take over the oil. They want to take over the gas. Look at the war in Mozambique and southern Tanzania. What is it for? 6 years ago, you yourself and me, we stood on a platform and I was warning you that there will be a war in southern Tanzania and northern Mozambique. Isn't it there today? I told you, and I've been indicated. What are they looking there? Why is the war there? They want the gas. Why is Kenya and Somalia in the Hague? The countries pushing them are 5 of them.
Okay.
They want the oil. So coming back to this question of unity, democracy, which you are talking about, people in Africa don't eat democracy. They eat food. I don't know whether you eat democracy. Where is your democracy you are eating it this morning?
I'm taking my water, my glass of water and coffee.
Yes, it is from a good democratic dispensation of Kenya. But we Africans, some of them need the Kagame style.
Yeah.
Yes, let's talk the truth. Look at Nigeria, a big giant collapsing every day. And
right.
It's gone.
Make it brief, Daktari. Why not? All right. I'm being told by my director, just allow me to distract your line of thought. We are trying to text the audio of Honorable Tundu Lissu, who's on standby to join us as we weigh into these conversations. I'd want to believe the gentleman in studio will have a question or two for him, even as we are here joining to condole with the people of Tanzania upon the demise of their leader, Dr. John Pombe Magufuli. Are we able to get a hold of Mheshimiwa? All right, even as we try and get a hold of him, I think it's also fair that we have ourselves, walking down the journey of John Pombe Magufuli. We have pictures and videos and, moments in his life that people celebrate, and equally moments that people, in a way, despise. And we also have his history that will be running down our screen, his biography, just to keep you up to speed as to what kind of a leader John Pombe Magufuli was, what he will be remembered for, what it is that we lose as a people of Africa, and what are some of the lessons that we are to pick out of his leadership, importantly. And of course, I'm sorry, Daktari, I distracted your line of thought. Maybe I will allow you 30 seconds or so to get to wind up with this on what it is that you were saying. But gentlemen, equally, we are getting a hold of Tundu Lissu. Before we get him, do you suppose his style of opposition is one to emulate? I mean, he's been vindicated eventually, while many criticized his approach on this particular issue upon that missing aspect of John Pombe Magufuli. Briefly, Fred.
I think Tundu Lissu did a good job when he ran for presidency in Tanzania, and unfortunately he didn't win, and he fled to the outside country. He's
on standby, he's listening to you, yes?
He fled because of his life, and I followed his tweets a lot. Even the day he was flying out, I saw pictures how he was sneaked out. It's unfortunate that such a thing is happening or happened in the 21st century. And I wish him well. And I also noticed that in the last days when President Magufuli was unwell, when you follow Tundu Lissu's tweets, he posted severally. And actually, it seems that he had the facts, because he could tweet and say what people feared to say. And those things have come to pass today. So him being at Tanzania, most likely he knows these people better than we do. So we cannot speak much about Tanzania better than him. He is the best person to tell us what happened, what he thinks. But I want to believe that because leadership requires everyone, and because leadership requires that you become accountable, and because leadership requires that you must be united, this is the time that Tundu Lissu must now unite with the people of Tanzania and the leadership of Tanzania, so that they send off their president in peace and in a respectable manner, so that as Kenyans can also see that our neighbors are acting in a manner that we can welcome as a community. Right. But be that as it may, Tundu Lissu also, as a leader, I want to believe that he will go back to his country and build afresh. Because if he had war with Magufuli, Magufuli is no more. Right. God forbid, he is no more. But you see, now the supporters of Tundu Lissu, because he used to have very big rallies and people admired him, he must go back and build from where he left.
All right, and Mheshimiwa Tundu Lissu is with us this morning. Allow me to loop him in, and then you'll ask the questions that you might be having for him. Tanzanian presidential candidate 2020 under Chadema, and a former president of Tanganyika Law Society, parliamentarian, a political leader, and as survivor of many tough times in regards to matters politics, and so much so in his own motherland. Mheshimiwa, asante sana kwa kuzungumza nasi asubuhi hii. We welcome you, and we'd love to hear your sentiments in regards to what is happening, na kwanza pia tume pole zetu au risala za rambirambi kwa Watanzania kwa jumla.
Asante sana TV47 for the opportunity. Obviously, what happened is a major development. I would say it is the first time in our entire history that a president is dying in office. It is the first time in our entire history that we are going to have a new president who is not just taking the reins of office from another president who's been deceased, but we're also going to be having a woman president for the first time as a result of President Magufuli's death. So it is a momentous day for Tanzania. It is in many ways a historic day.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I have a gentleman here in studio, a member of parliament, nominated member of parliament in the country. The gentleman who just spoke before you came in, Fred Okango, Secretary General of the Third Way Alliance, also a party in the country. And we have the chair of Pan-African Forum and equally the CEO Punchline Africa TV, Dr. David Nyakorach Masanga via Skype. I'd love for them to equally have a couple of questions in regards to that. And we go straight to a couple of questions that I will also be having, and we'll be looking at that. But briefly, gentlemen, just a question or two to Honorable Tundu Lissu.
Yes, Tundu Lissu. First of all, African problems require African solutions. And when you see a frog out of water running in broad daylight, just know that something is after that particular toad. But again, I would like to ask him, why did you choose Islam? Why did you not fight it out in your own country where you had so many fans? Do you think the European countries or foreign countries will give the solutions to Tanzania that you intended to have given if you succeeded as a president?
Right.
For me, I really would have liked to see Mheshimiwa Tundu Lissu remaining in Tanzania, fighting it in Tanzania,
a tough terrain,
rather than accepting to be a host by foreign masters who colonize us, who are scrambling for our underground resources, who are really fighting to divide Africa, and who are fighting to finish Africa. I think, and you should not take to it that because I share the dress code with Chama Pinduzi CCM ya Tanzania, the green color, but it is because I believe in Africa. I believe that we should have African solutions for African problems.
To you.
I do not know whether the gentleman knows my history that well, my recent history.
Yes.
But if he doesn't, I will tell him. I will tell you, sir, that I wished and I wish it was possible to continue carrying out my political work in Tanzania. But as you may know, perhaps, if you don't, I'll tell you now, on September 7, 2017, I was shot multiple times. I was shot 16 times outside my residence, my official residence. I was serving as a member of parliament and the leader of the chief whip of the official opposition in the National Assembly of Tanzania. I was shot multiple times outside my residence in a heavily guarded government housing compound. Now, I was shot that way 2 hours after President Magufuli had declared on national television that those who opposed his economic war did not deserve to live. And had it not been for you Kenyans, perhaps I wouldn't be here today.
Right.
Because after the shooting, I was airlifted to Nairobi, and I stayed at the Nairobi hospital for 4 months, during which period I underwent 17 operations at the hospital. The government of Tanzania, Magufuli's government, refused to offer medical benefits, my statutory medical benefits. It prohibited Tanzanians to contribute blood, prohibited people from praying for me.
Hello.
And that is why today you find me in exile in Belgium. Now you say that African problems need to be, must have African solution. I don't know about your where you get your history from, but I will remind you, during the dark days of apartheid in South Africa, the African National Congress, which is today the ruling party in South Africa, had members and officers all over the world. Thabo Mbeki, who later became president after Mandela, served many years, he lived for many years in England, a former colonial power. And ANC had representatives in Sweden and so many other countries. Now, that is only speaking about the ANC. Uganda, Yoweri Museveni. Where did Yoweri Museveni spend his years of exile? Was he in Uganda all along?
All right.
And not just Uganda. I can give you examples of Kenyans who ran away from during the repressive years of Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, who ran away from the Nyayo House torture chambers of President Moi. So, exile is just that, safe haven. You have to leave in order to fight another day.
All right, Mheshimiwa, allow me to cut you short so that we also can allow the other gentlemen to respond to that. And I'd want to believe that it has been well answered, though there are a couple of reservations that Mheshimiwa will speak of later. Let's probably loop in Dr. David Masanga and make it brief.
Well answered, and I was happy that
all right, okay. Before we come to the gentleman, also allow me to ask what it is that the people ask on ground. We also have a couple of questions from the people, and also what it is that we have as my team. And so you have been actively calling for the information of the whereabouts of President John Pombe Magufuli for the last about 2 weeks. What will be your reaction? What is your reaction after learning that he was in hospital all this time and is now dead?
I was not surprised at all because I knew all along. Listen.
Okay.
Yesterday I heard the vice president saying that the president took ill on the 6th of March. That is 11 or 12 days ago. I knew, I was given information 2 days before that, on the 4th.
All right.
On the 4th of March. I was told that the president was seriously sick. And I took time to verify. I took 3 days to look for independent verification of the reports that I heard. And that is why, if you follow my tweets, I tweeted for the first time on Sunday, March 7th. And I asked, please, a government spokesman, tell us where is the president and tell us whether he is alive and well.
On Tuesday, you spoke about the big announcement. Would you therefore confirm that indeed the president lost his life? That is on the actual date that was spoken about by the vice president. Well, having looked at your tweet and you speaking of the big announcement, what was the big announcement in this scenario?
Listen, my information tells me that the president actually died on Wednesday of last week.
Okay.
Wednesday last week.
Okay.
Okay. And they have been keeping this information as they have been keeping any information about the president's health all this period. And they simply have no credibility anymore to tell us anything about the president, other than the fact that now they've come out and said he's actually dead.
Yeah.
I had information when he was brought to Kenya. The day he was flown to Kenya, the next morning, I knew that he was in Nairobi. Not just from Tanzanian sources, but I have friends in Kenya. And my friends, I asked my people in Kenya, and they told me, yes, he's here.
All right, let's go back to your tweets. In one of them, that is March the 14th this year, you wrote, and I quote, Mark Twain, the great American humorist and man of letters, reputedly said, I don't wish anyone dead, but I've read certain obituaries with great satisfaction. Like him, I too do not wish anyone dead, but I'll write, not merely read, a certain obituary with great satisfaction. Kindly, this tweet, sir.
I meant that President Magufuli was dying. At that stage, my information told me that he was already dead. As I said, the information that I had is he had died on Wednesday of last week. So when I wrote that tweet, what I meant to say was I'm just waiting for the official announcement, because my sources were telling me the man was already dead. So I said I would write an obituary for him, and I have started. I should have finished by now, but I've been awake since the announcement was made, because I'm talking to members of the press from around the world. But I intend to write a fitting obituary for President Magufuli. We Tanzanians have gone through hell these past 5 years. And as I said, I do not wish anyone dead, but seriously, the death of President Magufuli offers our country a badly needed break. We now have a possibility, we now have a rare opportunity to take a step back from the brink. We now have a possibility for national dialogue, for national reconciliation, for truth and justice to the hundreds, possibly thousands of victims of these 5 years. We now have the opportunity to repair the damage done with our neighbors, with Kenya, with Uganda, with the East African community, with SADC, with African continent. We now have an opportunity to repair our diplomatic relations with the rest of the world.
Right.
And therefore, when I said I will write that obituary, I meant I will have time, I will have that opportunity to tell my country what to do now that this big obstacle to our progress is gone.
All right. Well, the Vice President, Mama Samia Suluhu, said that the president had a long heart problem, and that is exactly what killed him. Why do you think the people of Tanzania were kept in the dark about the health of their president?
That's a very good question. President Magufuli had thumbed his nose to the world when Corona struck. He refused cooperation with the world. He refused cooperation with our neighbors, with East African community, with SADC. Instead of relying on proven protocols, he relied on faith healers, on soothsayers, on herbal concoctions of dubious medical value. He refused to take even the most basic of precautions for dealing with COVID-19. He attended public gatherings without face mask. He hugged everybody who cared to be hugged. He shook hands. He did not, and he actually took pleasure in doing these things. He would say in church on national television that, why are you wearing face masks? Look at me. I'm not wearing any mask because I have faith in God. No, there is no corona. What has happened yesterday is poetic justice. He had it coming. I'm sorry to say.
That's a polite way of saying that he could have passed on due to COVID-19 complications?
Not he could have passed because of COVID.
You are confirming that it was the case.
He has passed away because of COVID-19 complications.
So in this scenario, do you expect the new president of Tanzania to change the government's stand on COVID-19?
Let me finish this.
All right.
The chief secretary, who is the head of civil service and the secretary to the presidency, died of coronavirus. I posted a picture, if you look at my tweets,
right,
of him swearing in the former foreign minister, who also fell with COVID-19. So the four people that you see in the picture before yesterday, three of them had died of COVID-19, and now the fourth has died. What is strange about that?
Well, so then, do you expect a change of tact on how Tanzanian government will deal with COVID-19 with the new president?
I I honestly expect the Vice President to change course completely. We cannot fight coronavirus on our own. We need our neighbors. We need our region. We need our continent to be with us. We need the world. Tanzania does not have the resources, does not have the expertise to deal with coronavirus on its own. And certainly, we do not need these herbal concoctions that the president has been promoting since last year. We do not need faith healers. We do not need soothsayers. We need people who have gone to school, who have the expertise to tell us about how to deal with this deadly virus. It is a global problem. It is not problem. It can only be fought globally. So the president to be Samia Suluhu Hassan should do the right thing. It should be the same thing. She should embrace the world instead of arrogantly and recklessly, telling the world to leave us alone. It cannot. We cannot be left alone. We'll perish.
All right. What then is your best memory of the late President John Magufuli? You could be having one at least.
Oh yes. I served with him for 5 years in Parliament.
Right.
And I remember President Magufuli as someone with absolutely no skin for criticism. He takes everything with personal. Mm-hmm. So if you criticize some road project somewhere, it is a personal insult. Okay. And so my memories of him are of someone who, when he was still a minister, he would come to you after the parliamentary session and tell you, but brother, why did you have to raise that? He would try to talk you out of pointing out these problems in his ministry, because he thought he's the kind of person who would think that any criticism, however well founded, is an attack on his person.
Right.
Once he became president and he got all these powers to decide who should live and who should die, we know after 5 years that temperament, that violent streak, that inability to accept criticism was, we know how he what happened to us Tanzanians.
Right.
Hundreds of people in the south of Dar es Salaam killed. Hundreds of villagers around our national parks, around our lakes, killed. Fishermen killed. Political opponents killed. And those of us who were lucky enough barely survived with our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Political parties undermined. Democracy attacked. It has been 5 long years.
All right. Well, thank you so much. In the best interest of time, gentlemen, I'll allow you to briefly, present your questions. But, I'm told there is one more question. How can you describe the state of CCM at the moment following the death of one of its top leaders?
Well, one has to understand CCM, and there is always this problem that people do not understand CCM. CCM is not a political party. CCM is a state party. It is a constitutional category, as one of its leaders said in the 70s. From 1965, when we became a one-party state, to where we are currently, CCM has always depended on the state for its existence. And therefore, with President Magufuli's passing,
right,
CCM, because it is totally dependent on the president, on the state, it will continue they will all line up behind this lady, Samia Suluhu Hassan.
Right.
They all of them will, because they cannot live without political power.
Do you think you're going to have a safe space back home?
What?
Will you have a safe space back home?
Who, me?
Yes.
Well, there are no guarantees, but the fight continues.
Well, all right. Dr. Masanga, briefly, a question to Honorable Lisu.
Are you there?
Yes, we are there.
Because I've not heard anything he has said.
Is it so?
I don't know. Yes, somehow, technically, I only heard what Sangok was asking.
All right. Well, at least this clip will be online. You'll be able to listen to some of the things that he's spoken about.
No problem.
Yes.
I even though he's my friend for some time. I know him.
Unfortunately, he cannot hear you well too. So as we try and fix that, let's allow Fred come in regards to this. Make it brief, Fred. Probably a question or some reservations as to what it is that Lusu speaks of.
I've listened to Lusu, and I must say that he has done well for himself and now for even his country. But democracy requires that sometimes you look back and give what is necessary to your country and stand with your country in times of happiness and in times of sadness. Today, Tanzania is experiencing a very worst moment because of the death of President John Magufuli. And even though I understand that he had differences ideologically with President Magufuli, but I think Tundu Lissu should now work with the current leadership or current government to ensure that they secure the lives of Tanzanians. He has articulated that they need other countries to fight corona. If himself as a leader he understands that, then it is also his duty to make the leadership of Tanzania understand that. And he cannot do that from Belgium. He can only do that from Tanzania. Then Tundu Lissu also has a party that he was leading. I know his followers and the leadership of his party are looking forward to his solutions, are looking forward to his leadership. He cannot lead that party from exile. He can only lead that party within Tanzania. Lastly, Tundu Lissu also has put it that his life in Tanzania is not guaranteed. But this is an international issue that has been broadcasted all over, even when he left Tanzania. And now that things have happened the way they have happened, I think the spotlight is on him to see whether Tundu Lissu will go back to Tanzania and ensure that he finishes the journey that he started. Because as a politician and as a leader, I want to believe that he was very categorical on what he wanted to do to the people of Tanzania should he have been elected the president. That journey, Tundu Lissu, my brother, I want to ask you, go finish it.
All right. Before we get his response in regards to the same and whether he tells us whether it is possible for him to do so, allow us to take a short break and we come back with more. That is in about a minute or so.
You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories. Are you a storyteller? What is that untold story in your village? Tell us the story in 3 minutes. Submit that story to your untold stories at tv47.co.ke and stand a chance to win a camera and other goodies. The top stories will be aired on TV47 and the viewer will vote for the best story through the SMS number 22047. The story must be an evergreen story that has never been told before. The deadline for submitting the stories is March 15, 2021. The link is by SMS. on TV 47, the home of Untold Stories. Only the wearer knows where it pinches the most. Soil fertility, proper temperature, water are just some of the factors needed to make that crop germinate. And for that animal, adequate feeds and healthy conditions is what they need. Kilimo Diaries takes you to different farmers, markets, and processing companies and have you fully equipped for that agriculture venture. Kilimo Diaries, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. This month, the Throwdown treats your taste buds with a sweet ride down dessert heaven with delicious and tasty recipes that will make your sweet tooth tingle. The Throwdown, every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. Are you a storyteller? What is that untold story in your village? Tell us the story in 3 minutes. Submit that story to your Untold Stories at TV.
Welcome back to the broadcast. Special tribute to the fallen soldier, that is John Pombe Magufuli, and still in studio, some in Skype and others physically. We have Honorable David Ole Sankok on standby still, and we have Fred Okango, Secretary General, Third Way Alliance. We still have Honorable Tundu Lissu via Skype and Dr. Masanga via Skype. And Honorable Sankok wishes to exit the stage, but before that, he says he has a question for Mheshimiwa, briefly.
Yes, first of all, Mheshimiwa Tundu Lissu, sir, I wish you all the best, but I still insist that African problem need African solution. You are needed in your country more than you are needed in Belgium. I really sympathize with what you have gone through, and God that have saved you from 16 shots will still save you from other more shots. But I think you could take some cues from our opposition leader, Raila Amolo Odinga, who was actually to face treason charges after swearing himself in, but he chose to tiptoe into Harambee House and shake hands.
Okay.
With, he tiptoed because even Miguna was not aware.
Story
even
for another day. Story for another day.
CJ Bonoko, that is TJ Kajwang, was not even aware, and he was the one who swore him. So he tiptoed into Harambee House. So you can still tiptoe into the hands of Her Excellency Samia and shake hands with her.
In reaction to that,
go forward.
Yes, in reaction to that, Honorable Tundu Lissu, I'd probably ask this: would you hold brief for opposition leaders while they are very instrumental in terms of achieving democracy and, shaping the politics of the nation? In most cases, fingers are pointed at them at the fact that they always, breed a lot of animosity and intolerance in their approach of politics.
Well, it is very easy for someone who has never been shot the way I was to preach, and I don't really blame my honorable friend there. He has not gone through what I personally went through. He has not gone through what other people have gone through in my country. I know about Raila Odinga, and I respect Raila very much. I was in Nairobi in November of 2018, and I went to see him in his office to ask him to intervene in Tanzania on what was going on with his friend. But I also know what happened in Kenya during the dark days of the Moi regime.
Right.
What was going on in Nyayo House. It is very easy to preach if you have never been victimized, my brother.
Right.
I am in Belgium because the government of President Magufuli wanted me dead. And to make sure that I was dead, they shot me 16 times. Now, you are asking me to go and shake hands uninvited by the very people who wanted me to go dead, to be dead. I'm not sure you get it. I'm not sure you get it.
Well, the argument is that you've chosen a tight battle and therefore should be ready for anything that comes along with it. I don't know whether we can loop in Daktari. Are we able to get you, Daktari? Can you hear us?
If I have chosen the tough battle,
right,
then I should not be told by someone who doesn't know how tough it is, what to do and what not to do, and how to do.
Briefly, there seems to be some bit of technical hitch in regards to the audio, but all the same, Daktari, yes. Question briefly for Mheshimiwa Tundu Lissu.
Thank you very much. Are you hearing me?
Very well.
Clear.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I don't want to give questions to Tudu Lissu. We are in the same category, Mr. Tudu. But there is a difference between me and you in approach. I have been in exile for 36 years, but I have never called for my country to have sanctions. That is point number one.
Okay.
The difference with me, I have never called for my country to be imposed on sanctions. It is unfortunate that you went under those type of circumstances, of which most of us went through. Mm-hmm. Some of us have gone through worse ones. I can't enumerate them here, but I don't call for sanctions from the West to come and kill my brothers in Uganda.
Okay.
That is point number one. Point number two, in African culture, an elder like Tudu, when a man has died, you don't dance over his grave, because there is one direction that all of us will go. Mm-hmm. Mr. Tudu, you have suffered, but redempt yourself. Have a heart of reconciliation. How many things have been done to Raila Amolo Odinga previously? And you saw Raila Amolo Odinga go across to shake the hand of Uhuru Kenyatta for the sake of the country.
Right.
Point number three, East or West, believe me or not, CCM is strong. CCM is strong. CCM is strong. And that will win an election again. Even if Pombe Magufuli has gone. I want to tell Tudu Lissu, if you depend on that type of language of saying international community come and squeeze one man in the middle, if you had differences with Magufuli, now is not there. Now approach it with a policy of reconciliation. Reconciliation, my brother. Tanzania needs you. You also need Tanzania. Some of us have seen all these battles. Some of us did not want to shake hands with our leaders. 2008, I took one step after 23 years, or 24 years, yes, to shake the hand of President Museveni. And I told him, thank you very much. I brought the peace in Uganda. That's the end of it. I have gone home.
All right.
I will stay wherever I am. So I am calling upon, and I agree with Fred and Sankok. I agree with Fred that reconciliation now is the best way forward for the people of Tanzania. Yes, if there were excesses of brutality, we can now look at them. Your country is the same. Remains Tanzania.
Okay.
Unite the people of Tanzania. Unite them at the hour of grieving. Give the one of the hopes. Tanzania is the country that liberated us in Uganda. We were being killed, slaughtered by Idi Amin. Tanzania gave us the TPDF. General Muzuguri, my commander, stood firm and brought us that freedom. There is no need of sitting out there and sending NGOs to come and bring more chaos.
He has a right to reply, Daktari. Let's allow him to respond.
No, I am not criticizing him.
Yes.
I am only giving him an advice. As an editor, I have ordered to do. Therefore, he should listen to me in African terms. I am an editor. I am over 60 years old. We might be in the same bracket, but he should listen to editors in Africa. Don't ever dance on the grave of the dead. This man is dead, but don't come with statements. At the moment, as a leader, compose yourself and say, okay, message of condolences. You have suffered enough. 16 bullets in your body was too much for you.
All right.
For me, some of us have lost families, parents, fathers, wives, wiped out because of a struggle.
Daktari, thank you. Thank you. Yes, let's put into consideration the aspect of time. Honorable Tundu Lissu, I'd want to believe that you've heard the sentiments that Daktari speaks of, and would love to hear your reaction in regards to the same, even as we come to a close of this.
I think I made myself very clear that what the country needs now is national reconciliation, truth, justice, and reconciliation. That is my position. That now that President Magufuli, who prevented that to happen for 5 years, now that he has died, we have a rare opportunity to open a new chapter for our country. We have an opportunity to build a country that respects the rights of her citizens. That is what I say. As regards the allegation that I'm dancing on Magufuli's grave, I think that is very unfortunate for him to say that. I have said, and I will say it again for the record, President Magufuli, for 5 years, terrorized Tanzanians, not just in political opposition like myself, but in civil society, in villagers, simple villagers. People have been hurt during these 5 years. Now that he is gone, we have a responsibility to make sure that we open a new chapter. We look forward without forgetting the lessons of history, because those who forget their history are condemned to repeat their past mistakes. So my brother, I hear you. I hear you loud and clear. We need reconciliation very well. But that reconciliation can only be based, if it is to be true reconciliation, it must be based on truth. The abuses of the past, the wrongs of the past have to be brought to the open. Those who committed these wrongs have to acknowledge their wrongs. To the victims, the victim must be compensated. And then we must build a new foundations for our country. We must build a foundation for the country. We must have a new constitution. We must have a political culture and a constitutional order that holds government to account. That does not allow leaders to run amok in the manner of President Magufuli for 5 years. Now that is not, I don't believe that is dancing on
redemption strategy.
It is just
the redemption strategy.
The unvarnished truth.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mheshimiwa Tundu Lissu, for speaking with us this morning. And gentlemen, time is pretty much running. So I will allow our Fred to weigh in or give us his last sentiments, probably a roundup of what it is that we have discussed this morning in about a minute or so.
Thank you, Linda. I think it is important that we mourn with our neighbors, our good neighbors of Tanzania. And we have also had an opportunity to discuss with Honorable Tundu Lissu, the gentleman who is now in Belgium out of exile, you know, and if I listen to him, I think he is not very happy with what happened to him. And as human beings, we are likely to feel that way. But we have advised him and encouraged him, as the people of Kenya who love peace, that maybe it is time to go back to Tanzania and build Tanzania together.
Can I respond to that?
And
sure, you will.
And I think for us as Kenyans, we will continue to support our neighbors.
Right.
We will continue to work with them through Muungano Afrika Mashariki, and I think that is going on very well. But back in Kenya, Linda, because we have also discussed this, the issue of constitutional amendment.
Would you allow him to respond to you first, and then we come to that? Yes, Mheshimiwa Lissu.
Thank you very much. First of all, let me make it very clear that I will return to Tanzania. That goes without saying. The issue is when and under what conditions. For someone who survived an assassination attempt the way I did, I simply cannot pack my bags tomorrow and fly to Dar es Salaam. I will be killed. The people who wanted me dead are still out there. And therefore, as a reasonable man who wants to live, I want to obtain guarantees as to my safety. I love to live. I love life like you do. All right? But more importantly,
right?
We need to look ahead. I said a day or so ago, 2 days ago, I think, that the post-Magufuli transition is well underway. We have to look forward. But it is important, and when I hear my brother here speak the way he does, I start wondering whether he really understands the lessons of Kenya's own history. I have a fairly good, solid understanding of what Kenyans went through during the 17 years of Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, during the 24 years of President Moi, during the dark years of Nyayo House torture chambers. And Kenyans fought for democracy. And in 2010, you got this constitution, and we want the same. We want the same constitutional dispensation that allows us to have a say in the running of the affairs of our country. And therefore, Kenya, and you Kenyans have always been, the Kenyan political tradition has always been very close to my heart, if you want to know. And I have some of my heroes, the people who resisted in the 80s. Paul Muite during his younger years, Gotv Manyara, James Orengo, all these heroes of the Kenyan democracy movement of those years. These are the people who inspired me during my younger years. And therefore,
Linda,
I will go to Tanzania when the appropriate time comes.
Okay.
And we will continue, and I hope, in fact, I might be in Nairobi in the next few weeks.
Karibu sana. Thank you.
Nimeandika kitabu juu ya constitutional history ya East Africa.
Ndio.
Parliamentary history ya East Africa. Nakuja kukizindua Nairobi, okay?
Ndio. Basi tunasubiri, karibu sana. Na uhakikishe kwamba utakuja hapa physically, manake najua kuna wengi ambao wangependa kuzungumza zaidi.
Nakuja physically.
Ndio. Nakuja TV47, uje TV47 physically. Najua kwamba kuna corona, lakini hamna neno, tutafanya the measures as expected.
Nitakuja na barakoa.
Karibu sana. That is a promise, and so I look forward to host you.
Lakini Tundu jameni,
Nairobi, I'll look you up.
All right.
Tundu jameni,
I'm also on the line.
Who tells you nasherehekea?
Pengine matamshi yako kwa njia moja au nyingine inaonekana kwamba kwa sababu walitaka kukuua wale wenzao, pengine inaonekana kwamba wewe kwa matamshi, unajua
mimi ni afadhali, mimi ninaishi,
lakini na mimi nataka
kuzungumza. Daktari, tunakusikia. Wacha tumwachie daktari nafasi ya zungumza dakika kama ngapi? Nusu dakika, ndio.
Asante sana. Asante sana mwenzi yangu, ndugu mpenzi. Niliishi Msasani makati ya 78 79 makati tulikuwa tunapambana na
daktari, you know Swahili is not for everyone. You might want to go English way.
Mimi umekaa Msasani alafu hujajifunza Kiswahili.
Ujue usikie. Nchi za Afrika zinaleta mvurugano. Tutaki Tanzania ikuwe na mavurugano. Tanzania imekuwa nchi ya amani. Kwa hivyo Tudu, wewe mimi nakujua, hata unanijua, unaniona face, wacha nitoe hizi uone. Wewe mwenzi yangu, tumekuwa kwa trenches pamoja na wewe. Nataka leo kukwambia tufanye kitu moja. Umezungumza kitu moja hapo, umesema unataka reconciliation, reparation, restitution, truth telling, accountability. Yes, hiyo ndio strategy ambayo mimi mtu wa miaka 60 na juu nataka iendelee Afrika. Kwa hivyo,
asante.
Leo kama tuko kwa matanga ya mzee Dr. Pombe Magufuli, nataka ujue kitu moja. Watanzania wanakupenda. Watanzania wanakupatia kura.
Asante baba.
Watanzania watu wazuri sana kwa nchi hii ya Afrika. Kwa dunia, kwa continent ya Afrika. Lakini naomba wewe unisikilize kabisa. Mimi nimeshakaa wewe
kwa ufupi daktari.
Nimekuwa huko mara mingi, miaka 36. Lakini usifanye sanctions zikuje kwa nchi yako. Don't behave like a Changarai. Don't behave like a Mogani Changarai.
Thank you.
Don't behave. Behave like an African. Now, on that one, I'm looking for you to discuss in Belgium one of these days.
Thank you, Dr. Time is a factor here, and we need to be considerate of the same. So, Honorable Listo, because all these questions are directing at you, or are being directed at you, I think it's fair that you call it a short in terms of your parting shots as you respond to the same.
First of all, I really appreciate the opportunity to appear on your program.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much. And secondly, I think the situation where Tanzania finds itself today, and I mean after yesterday, is a very delicate period. We have an opportunity to take a different trajectory. And we ask our people, our friends in the region, we ask the Kenyan people and all our neighbors in the region to help us steer into this new trajectory. The politics of COVID denial are a dead end. The politics of thinking that we Tanzanians can hold our own in the world, it will take us to a dead end. We need our neighbors, we need the world. And President who is coming, Samia Suluhu Hassan, should be helped to steer Tanzania to this new direction. And as I said, I'm prepared to, I will return home. But my position is and will remain truth, justice, reconciliation.
All the way from Belgium. Thank you so much, Honorable Tundu Lissu. Fred, I cut you short in regards to what it is that we've spoken about earlier on. Briefly.
Thank you so much. Finally, our good brother Tundu Lissu has assured the world that he will go back to Tanzania.
No, you are the only one who didn't know, my brother.
Oh, at least you have confirmed. You know, say representation creates emphasis.
And I think as the East African community, we thank you for that, and we wish you the best. We wish Tanzanians the best, even as we mourn with them on the death of President Pombe Magufuli. But in Kenya, Linda.
Linda, don't forget, I'm also on the line.
30 seconds, Daktari. I'll give you 30 seconds too. Yes.
On the line, as I finish, so that we give probably Dr. Masanga a minute. We must understand, Linda, that even in Kenya, we are undergoing a very difficult moment.
Yes.
The deaths are being recorded. The positivity rate has gone to 17%. The numbers keep on rising. We must wash our hands, keep our distance, and mask ourselves so that we protect ourselves and, most importantly, our families. Lastly, on the issue of constitutional amendment, we have listened, we have seen, we have participated. We want to ask the people of Kenya, it is time that we be patient. The Parliament today are conducting public participation on this bill. We believe that they will be done shortly. And when they are done, then this bill will only have two ways. Either it is rejected and it goes to the referendum, or it is approved and it goes to the referendum. So that means Kenyans have an opportunity to participate in the final decision making in a referendum. We hope that they pass it and we go to the referendum, because the bill therein has a lot of good things for the people of Kenya. We ask the people of Kenya, let us avoid speculation. The issue of IBC, I think something that can be settled. It is clear IBC has no role whatsoever in proposing the number of constituencies, but they have a role in the limitation, particularly on renaming naming and reviewing the boundaries. That will be done, and that's why in the transitional constitutional provisions in the BBI bill, it proposes that within 6 months after the commencement of the Act, the BBI Act, then now IBC shall determine those boundaries as per provisions of Article 81D and 89(7). That will be done.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that aspect. And to you, Dr. Masanga, in about 45 seconds or so, kindly give us your parting shots.
Thank you very much, TV47.
Thank you
for giving me this opportunity to appear on this day when one gallant son of Africa has fallen. Pan-Africanism has not gone with him. Pan-Africanism remains here. I am glad that Tundu has accepted that there is a redemption strategy needed at this hour. Thinking of the past, Germany would not be here. Germany would be looking back and always stay back. Let's think of what we can do. Let history teach us that we can make a better place. On the question of the constitution in Kenya, on the Chebukati and his malaise, I believe Chebukati does not understand law properly, yet he's a lawyer. This thing will come to him after it has been passed or rejected. So let him wait, and then he does the job which he's supposed to do. Thanks you very much, TV47. I want to thank you all. I want to thank Tundu Lundu. I am going to look for you very seriously, my brother. We are in the struggle to get Africa better, but let's not carry the bitterness of the past. If I sit down with you to tell you mine is a long story. You would laugh, you will cry until I think the whole Indian Ocean overflows.
Well, thank you so
very much. Thank you very much, TV47, for inviting me this morning. Thank you. God bless all of you. May the soul of President Pombe Magufuli rest in peace.
Well, once again, Dr. David Nyekorach Masanga, Chair Pan-African Forum and CEO Punchline Africa TV, Honorable Tundu Lissu, who's a Tanzanian presidential candidate 2020, that is, under Chadema, and former president of Tanganyika Law Society. 2020, that is, under Chadema, and former president of Tanganyika Law Society, a parliamentarian, and indeed a political leader. Thank you so much for the great insights. And lastly, we have Fred Okango here, who's the Secretary General, Third Way Alliance. Thank you once again for the great insights. A polite reminder, or just to keep you up to tabs in regards to this, President Uhuru Kenyatta is set to address the nation and the East African community, respectively, in his capacity as the chairperson of the East African community in regards to the demise of John Joseph Pombe Magufuli, as we say that his soul, we hope that indeed his soul may rest in eternal peace. And of course, we leave you with pictures and memories of John Pombe Magufuli, born in Chato, Northwest Tanzania, and that is in 1959, studied chemistry and mathematics at the University of Dar es Salaam, 1988, and in 1995 he was first elected as Member of Parliament, also in Biharamulo, a constituency on those sides of Chato, also re-elected later on, and in 2000 became a cabinet minister, and works, of course, where he earned the nickname Bulldozer based on his work ethics. And in 2015 was first elected as the president of Tanzania, and in 2020, that is just the other day, we were watching the elections closely, he was re-elected for a second term. And a couple of leaders, different people have come out to weigh in and to also send their message of condolences, in their respective ways, virtually, to the family, friends, and the people of Tanzania. And here we are. Dr. Ezekiel Mutua, death is so cruel, but its sting shall one day lose its power. Blessed are they that die in the Lord, for they shall live again. Fare ye well, President John Pombe Magufuli. May God comfort your family and the great nation of Tanzania. That is under the hashtag RIP Magufuli, and very many leaders also, celebrities. Governor Hassan Ali Joho, the people of Mombasa, join our brothers and sisters of the United Republic of Tanzania in mourning the death of their beloved President Dr. John Pombe Joseph Magufuli. May the Almighty assuage your grief, and may he also rest his soul in eternal peace. Amen. And a couple of others that are still trickling in. And Senator Ledama Olekina says, President John Pombe Magufuli, rest with the angels. My thoughts are with your family and the people of Tanzania. Poleni sana. And much, much more. We here at TV 47 equally pass our message of condolences to the people of Tanzania, the friends and family of Honorable John Pombe Magufuli, and the East African fraternity at large, the African fraternity at large. Indeed, a soldier has fallen, and also President Uhuru Kenyatta again will be addressing the nation and the East African community in his capacity as the chairperson of the East African community. We will be streaming that to ensure that you get the updates in regards to this. We have our reporters on ground also following up on the senatorial by-election in Machakos County, and a couple of other stories that will be coming your way on a subsequent bulletins and programs. It was good having you since morning, right? I mean, it's still morning, right? From 6 a.m. up until 9 a.m. in a couple of minutes. That is 9 a.m. and some 7 minutes. Respectively, we say asante sana as we look forward to see you again tomorrow. To the team that has made the broadcast a success, thank you so much. It was good having you. Thank you for the numerous feedback and equally for tuning in. We say once again, may the soul of John Pombe Magufuli rest in eternal peace.